Mr. Graham, aka Joy Junkie, and we are back again for another JamCast. Tonight is going to be quite a special one, and you'll find out in just a second why. With me tonight we have Connor, aka John.
Alright.
We also have Troy, aka NM Rain.
How's it going, everybody?
And we have Darren, aka Dazil.
Hello, good evening.
And joining us as a special guest, we also have...
This is Stewart Gilray from Just Oddworld Developments Limited, CEO of the company. I've been in the business now for, what year are we in now? 2014, so it was going to be 27 years.
Wow.
I started off working with, as a freelance programmer, working with people like EA and Bullfrog and Argonaut, and Psygnosis, etc. And then after that, spent a number of years as a producer, project manager at 21st Century Entertainment, who used to be Houston Consultants, working on Pinball Dreams, Pinball Fancies, Pinball Slam Tilt, Pinball Construction Kit, Synergist, Marvelous Adventure, Moonfall, Rubicon. There's more, I can't remember them all. And all the pinball games were on things Game Boy, original Game Boy, NES, SNES, Atari Jaguar, Atari ST,
Amiga,
CD32.
Did you say Atari Jaguar?
Yeah, Jaguar did a launch title for Jaguar.
Jeez.
Wow.
What else? And then we did Pinball Fantasies on PlayStation 1, which was unreleased in Japan.
Really?
Which was, yes. I believe it was
I never even realised that came out on PlayStation at all.
I don't even think it came out in the West, as far as I know.
That's going to be me Googling a copy of that from Japan then.
What else? After that, went to a company called Grolly Interactive, where I worked on a game called Synergist, Xenocracy, which is a space game on PlayStation 1 and PC and iMac, which was OS 9 days, Christ's sake. Then a game called Tank Racer on PlayStation 1 PC. Then, what was next? Also worked on V2000, the sequel to David Braben's Virus from the Amiga and ST days. After that, I left there and went to work at Revolution Software on Broken Sword 2.
Oh, you worked at Revolution?
I did. Eldorado.
I wondered if I met you then at some point.
Why?
If you went for Broken Sword 2, that was probably at a later point, because when they were based in Hull, I went for a look round. I was still in my teens.
it was after that.
So it
was in York.
After that point,
thank God.
Not quite the scary stalker.
I'm not quite stalking you then, that's alright.
I only go to Hull through duress.
I'm being held by duress, send help.
Hey. Then I went, after Revolution, went to Runecraft, where I did Soldier of Fortune on Dreamcast. What else? Spec Ops Ranger Elite on PS1 in 3 months. I started a little bit of Matt Hoffman's BMX, but not very much.
Love that game.
Then after that, I left and started my own company up where we did Pinball Dreams and Fantasies on GBA under the great name from Ubisoft's marketing of Pinball Challenge Deluxe.
What?
Yeah, don't go there. Left there, took 3 years out of the business, came back in 2006 when I set up Just Add Water, and we're now just over 7 years, 4 months old. We're now 17 strong, employed someone new last week. Still trying to find more programmers, never seem to get them all.
They're not like Pokemon.
You'd be surprised how hard it's been a programmer, especially in this part of the world. And we're working on pretty much 90% Oddworld based product.
Isn't there
Tasty out
another game that's maybe coming
soon? There is. We'll do that in a minute. We got New and Tasty due this spring on PS3, PS4, Vita, PC, Mac, Linux, hopefully, and Wii U. What else we got? We got Gravity Crash Ultra on the Vita. Yay! Which I've been playing today in the office for a little while, and boys are looking sexier than ever.
Oh, don't, please. I can't wait.
Well, did you play the PS3 version?
I've played the PSP version. I don't think I picked it up for PS3, I must admit.
Okay. Multiply the number of particles by about 10.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, lots more.
Yeah, I love those kind of games. There's something
about particles and you, isn't there? You just love particles. Always going on about particles, like you resogun, or you should see the particles.
Well, do you know? I can't help
I hope
myself.
it's particles and it's not some kind of blood pressure issue.
And we're back to the medical issues on the show.
There we go. So,
And I think there we go. That's enough for that.
Do we have any potential release dates for anything yet? Have you given anything out yet? Are you allowed to say anything yet?
Well, Gravity Crash Ultra, we're aiming for April.
Oh wow, cool.
It's hits beta in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Excellent.
So yeah, we got one more thing we got to get working, but that's only not working now because of an issue with Sony. Basically, I made the foolish mistake of saying that we'll let the PS3 user-generated content be available in the Vita version and vice versa.
Yeah, I heard that.
We've had a right nightmare trying to get Sony to get their servers to talk to the Vita version of the game.
Oh no!
We've still got a problem which we thought we'd resolved this morning, but I went onto the DevNet system and it still said next to it requested. Oh, for God's sakes! So wait for that to be resolved, which should hopefully be the next 40 hours or so. And then once that's done and checked, it'll be beta.
Wow!
Right.
So lots of touch screen stuff added to the editor, so you can pinch and stretch now and move your fingers around to move things around and stuff, and touch and move objects around on the levels with your finger. Remixes of the original music's in there. Particles times a gazillion. It's very nice. Even we've also added in. Well, you remember this if you played the PSP version. We had a third spaceship which was completely anti-gravity, which always bemused me why we did that. And the reason we did that was because we got complaints from people saying, "I let go of the joysticks and I just died." And I felt like saying, "Well, the clue's in the name of the game. The clue's in the name of the game: Gravity Crash."
Yeah.
So we end up with the PSP version. Added this third spaceship in, which was completely anti-gravity. So that's in the Vita version, and we might add it to the PS3 version.
Oh, nice. That's one thing I'm quite surprised that you seem to be going back to your old stuff and making sure it's finished.
Well, here's the thing, right? When we did the PS3 version, it shipped with a serious bug which basically fucked up your trophies. Sony QA couldn't find it. We couldn't find it. Nobody could find out the steps to reproduce it. And literally about 3 weeks before we finished the PSP version, we found the exact same bug in the PSP. Even though the PSP hasn't got trophies, the trophy issue is caused by the save file getting zeroed.
Oh, God.
So the trophy's unlocked. So we discovered the same issue in the PSP, that the save file got wankered, basically knackered and deleted and emptied and zeroed in some places. We managed to recreate the steps for that, and it was a really stupid bug, which took us like 5 minutes to fix in the PS3. But at the time, Sony's XDev guys wouldn't pay for it to go through QA again, so the update never got released. Bit of a pain, but there you go.
So if you wanted to patch something, do you have to then pay additional to get it to be checked?
No,
or?
it was because PS3 version was published by Sony and done through their XDev Worldwide Studios division. Sony own the IP to Gravity Crash, so we don't own it anymore.
Right. And
with the PS3 version, they just because it didn't sell at all really. It's atrocious numbers in PS3.
Right.
And most people think that's because it came out 10 days before Pixel Junk Shooter came out. Even though both games are vastly different games, yes, they're 2D side-scrolling, but that's it. Pixel Junk Shooter shouldn't really have been called that. Even Dylan at Q Games, it was more Pixel Junk Adventure to some degree, because it's
not really
it's
a
more
shooter,
about rescuing.
It's
not. Whereas Gravity Crash was a real serious shooter, in the Geometry Wars style. But anyway, so people didn't buy Gravity Crash because they waited for Pixel Junk Shooter, because it was the third Pixel Junk game at the time, or the fourth. Was it fourth? It was the fourth, yeah. And it just because
Monsters,
of that, it didn't.
Eden.
Racer.
Racer was first, wasn't it?
Racer was first, then it was Eden, then it was Monsters.
Yeah.
I think.
Fourth, wasn't it?
So because of that, it's a known brand. People bought that over us. But even though Dylan and I both said in interviews we did that, they're both different games. Buy both. People didn't buy Gravity Crash. As a result, Sony XDev didn't want to pay for it to go through QA before submission. So when Sony approached us and asked if we wanted to do a Vita version, actually that's not true. I asked Shahid at Sony Liverpool London, said, "Look, we'd love to do a Vita version. Would you want to do it?" And he said, "Yeah, go for it." I said, "Well, we want to publish it though." He said, "Yeah, fine, you publish it." Because of that though, I said to Sony Liverpool, "Look, if we do this and fix the PS3 version, we will pay for its QA through Testology, who we use for all games for QA. Can you guys release the patch for PS3?" And they went, "Yes."
Wow.
So the nice bonus of that is if we pay for the quality assurance test and make sure it's fine for submission, they'll just throw it through submission on PS3. So we're going to do a couple little fixes on the PS3 version and add that third ship potentially.
Are you going to do it as like a cross-buy possibility so that people will go back and be able to play the PS3
Well,
version?
we can't. We can't because we're the publisher on record for Ultra on Vita. Sony are the publisher on record for the PS3 version. Now, the way the cross-buy systems work, you can't do cross-publishers.
Yeah. So that was the issue with like Future Lab and Kev Studios releasing Velocity Ultra.
Yes, exactly the same thing. Yeah. So
it's really nice that you've gone back. You've considered it and want to go back and finish it. The unfinished piece of software or the bug as you put it in there. It's nice. It's nice that you have that integrity as sort of an artist, really.
We kind of did the same thing with Stranger PS3. We released it originally. The original intention was to release it with Move and 3D support, and we didn't because we ran out of time. And we released the 3D Move support in the summer the following year. Mm-hmm. Here we are. The original game was released in December 2011. We've just released it. It's in November in Europe. Version 2 of Stranger PS3. Half the file size, a few more things in it, some more fixes and stuff, and a slightly better performance and frame rate in some places. And that comes out, next month in the States. So that's 2 years after release, we're still supporting it. And in fact, we got a demo for Stranger coming out on PS3 next month as well.
Oh, excellent! That's maybe more people will go and then pick it up and have a play.
We actually finished the demo in March last year. It's been sat since then, waiting to release. But the reason we didn't release it is because we did something on the PS3 version, we did the Vita version. We've added in leaderboards.
Right.
So 2 years after release, we put in leaderboards into the game. There you go. But the demo already had the leaderboards in there, so you could view the view scores and stuff. Now, with Sony, and I guess Microsoft and Nintendo, if you release a demo, you can view leaderboards, you can't post to them.
Okay.
So we needed the update out there, version 2 update out there, with the leaderboards in it, before we could release the demo. Now, we actually originally submitted the version 2 for update for a submission last March, but because it failed on a couple of silly bugs, and we had no time because of New and Tasty suddenly came on the scene for high priority, we didn't get a chance to finish the PS3 update until December time. So it's like literally 7 months or 8 months of doing nothing on it, just waiting for New and Tasty to be in a position where we could say, right, let's spend a week on this, get this fixed, and get out the door.
That's really good. I want to ask about Munch on Vita because I haven't played it on PS3.
Yes.
And I know there's an ongoing battle with it. And I think the last thing I heard on PlayStation Nation was you were going to kick ass. Are we likely to see it anytime soon? Because I resisted playing it when I knew it was coming for Vita. I thought I'm not going to get it for PS3. I want it on my Vita.
I mean, I've been playing it on Vita for about 1.5 years, 2 years now, but it's not finished yet.
Right.
I'm not going to go into the whys and why not. It's because it's a political mess, frankly. Because we farmed out the programming to another team to do it for us, and it's been probably the worst decision I've made. So we're still playing Fix It. We've literally submitted today a fix update for the PS3 to fix the trophies and graphical errors.
Yeah, I think my friend had an issue with the PS3 version, and it basically was game breaking and it stopped him playing.
So we fixed that now.
That's good.
That update is in Sony. I think it will actually enter QA properly tomorrow or Wednesday. And then the end of the month we're doing a language update with subtitles for the foreign countries. Because they wanted languages in it. We tried to get. We already submitted an update, which increased the game size by 100% because it had all the movies in there with 5 languages in it.
Oh God!
But we literally, and this is the biggest headache. We went through all the archives, and we're actually missing some of the original foreign dialogue lines in the game. So we've not been able to release that update with all French, Italian, German, Spanish in it.
So are you
we've
going to
decided-
do them as separate like entities then? So
No, that was the original plan. But literally, we couldn't find. And then we discovered we could actually have all. Because the problem was, the original plan was the reason we couldn't do one before was because at the time you couldn't have MP4 files on a PS3 with multiple audio tracks.
Oh right,
They've
okay.
since updated the SDK, and now you can.
Right.
So we literally encoded all the movies with 5 audio tracks: English, French, Italian, German, Spanish. But now, when we come to finish it off, we discover we're missing some of the dialogue from in-game at the end of the game. And we can't find it anywhere. Not even in the main archives in the States at Oddworld can they find these audio files. We couldn't find them. When I was across at E3, I spent a couple of days at the Oddworld HQ, went through all the old disc backups, and thought we found most of them, but we're still missing some. So unfortunately, what we're having to do now is we're having to get pretty much the bulk of the game transcribed to do subtitles.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so it's been a right screw up from start to end, frankly. But the thinking is, the Vita version needs the same assets we need in the PS3 version for the languages. So once the PS3 version is done, which is hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, we will then get the Vita version finished up and released as well. So I know I said I wanted it out by Easter of last year, then it was by the fall, but it's just been a catalogue of disaster one after the other. We're almost there
given
now.
up on it though. That's damn impressive. There are a lot of other devs who would have just gone, I'm cutting my losses. I've had a blood enough of this. It's done. No one's now going to buy it. I don't care. I'm done. I want to move on. But that level of pride to actually make sure it's finished is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Well, the amount of requests we get for it on a weekly basis, it'd be foolish for us to say we're not doing it now.
Right.
Yeah.
I know how much it's cost us to make the game. I know how much it'll cost us by the time it's released, and it's not much more than we've already spent. Less than $20,000 probably to finish it.
Right.
Once that's done and it's out there, we can make some money for it, which will go towards what we've spent on New N Tasty, which is almost double the original budget we planned. But it's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not operating at a loss or anything like that yet. For example, the money we've made from Stranger HD is pretty much already paid for all of New N Tasty.
Are you then investing all of that money into making Hand of Odd?
You bugger.
The fifth game. The fifth game. Where is it?
What? No. Where's the third game?
Well, isn't thingy the third game? I thought Strangers was the third. Munch was the fourth.
You've still got. But you've still got to make Exodus HD first.
Well, here we go. Right. Right. The original 5 games was a quintology.
Yep.
Right. And those are all called Odyssey. So Abe's Odyssey is in the quintology. Munch's Odyssey is in the quintology. Abe's Exodus is not in the quintology. Right. It's a secondary game. Stranger's Wrath has nothing to do with the quintology at all. Right?
No,
the third game in the quintology is called Squeak's Odyssey.
Yeah.
Right? And we already know what that is to a degree.
Ooh.
We already know what Squeak is, or who Squeak is. We know how he comes about. We know what his story is. We know what kind of gameplay mechanics we need for him. But the point of the quintology games is, with each new quintology game, you're not only playing that new character in the title role, you're also playing the previous characters in the other games.
Right.
So by the time you get to the 5th game, you're going to be basically jumping between 5 protagonists, where Munch is between Munch and Abe. So the Squeak is going to be Munch, Abe, and Squeak.
So you said that all of the quintology ones begin with Odyssey. So
end with Odyssey. So Abe's Odyssey, Munch's Odyssey.
Well, sorry, that's what I meant. It had Odyssey in the title.
Yeah.
So Sligstorm is not part of the quintology.
No, it's an extra.
So I see. Fair, because it sounded like the way Sligstorm was described. It sounded like kind of like a origin story.
It is, but not as part of the Odyssey. Basically, the story of Sligstorm is that there's I can't remember the character's name there, but there's a Slig.
It's an albino Slig, yeah.
Albino Slig, who basically, he's discovered he's one of a kind. He gets picked on by other Sligs, to the point he basically goes, fuck you, and starts shooting them all.
I love Sligs.
But it's based in Rupture Farm.
Oh, really?
Right? So the idea is that you're playing this albino Slig, trying to help the Madakins escape to some degree by killing all the Sligs and doing the almost like the inside man route.
That actually rings a
That's
bell with
interesting.
me. I must have heard this talked about
Yeah.
or written about in like Games Master years and years ago with them talking. I'm
Probably,
thinking,
yeah.
oh
I'm
wow,
just
that's
trying
a
to
really
figure out-
interesting idea. Yeah,
Just
wow.
trying to figure out what an albino slig would actually look like, because sligs are yellow. He'd be like just
Well, sligs are green.
actually green. I thought they were sort of a greeny yellow. Their spines were kind of greeny, and their like underbellies kind of. They would appear yellowish in the game, but then again, you're the developer.
They're kind of greeny yellow. They're kind of like reptiles, so that their stomachs are like a beigey, yellowy colour, and the backs and arms and what have you are green.
I must be sort of in my mind. I've got that piece of art, a slig concept art, where they're very yellow and they've got like a sort of.
Oh, I know what you mean. There's a painted one which is kind of a yellow painted to it, with sandy colours on it.
Is it like it's got like a steampunk legs? Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking of.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how come this intro ended up being like half an hour.
I'll tell you why, because you let me talk.
Right. No, trust me, you let these two go and they could run off for hours without anyone else's help.
Sorry.
Troy's falling
So
asleep.
what we'll do there is we'll call that the end of the intro and we'll move on to what we've been playing. As our guest, Stuart, would you like to jump in first? So, what have you been playing over the past few weeks?
Oh God, it's ever with me. It chops and changes from day to day almost. At home, I've been playing. Actually, since PS4's come out, I've played and finished Assassin's Creed 4. I've done Need for Speed Rivals. Started playing Lego Marvel Superheroes with my 7-year-old. And that's about it really from the PS4 side of things. But the most recent thing has been my wife and I have been playing Assassin's Creed Liberation on PS3 and managed to finish it in 2 days. What did I think? Right, now, I people who know me, listen to me on other podcasts, know that I tend to rant a lot about the Assassin's Creed series because I think they've ruined it the past couple of games. So, Liberation is kind of a semi-breath of fresh air, actually.
Really?
Yes, because the problem I have with 4 is it's more of a pirating game with 20% Assassin's Creed attached to it. Whereas Liberation, it's set in proper tech, like in New Orleans. It's almost like you got the previous Ezio trilogy of games in towns and stuff. It's more going on. There's more people around it and things like that. I just think the story's better than Assassin's Creed 4, but I still love Assassin's Creed 4 as well. You can tell the Liberation it is a Vita to PS3 port, so they're obviously to try to squeeze as much as they could into a game of that size. But it's enjoyable. I fairly enjoyed it. And I actually think the character of Eveline's a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for, approachable or likeable than Kenway is.
I think she's got a lot more of an interesting backstory. I think she feels slightly more rounded than I think Connor did. But I played it on the Vita and I wasn't a big fan.
No,
I started it. I got it for release and I didn't finish it until last month because I just couldn't stand the combat system in it. It felt really broken.
It's kind of a step back to the Assassin's Creed 2 combat systems.
Yeah,
but I don't know because I never played it in Vita, so I don't know what it's like. But on PS3, I know there were some tweaks they did make, and they said they're making in the combat area and the controls and stuff.
right.
So I'm guessing those have been addressed. The only issues I really had with it was just the fact it wasn't as fluid and as smooth as 4 was, even on PS3. And that's because obviously it's a much smaller game compared to Assassin's Creed 4.
Do you
and
think it was
indeed
a bit
3.
of a weird sort of message to... they built it just for Vita to begin with, and sort of said like, "Here's the Vita's own Assassin's Creed." Kind of like spinning it as a console seller, really, to the Assassin's Creed fans. But then to sort of port it up to from handheld, which has been built with.
I think it was always intended to be ported.
It was built
up.
with
I think they always planned
touchscreen
on-
in mind, and my girlfriend, who is a massive Assassin's Creed fan, so I'm not really interested in the games. I don't deny their quality or anything, but just never really been interested in them. But her being a hardcore fan, she didn't really enjoy it. She didn't enjoy the handheld sort of style of it, the way it's built around the touchscreen. And
No, like I said, I think it works a lot better on PS3. I didn't play it on Vita at all, so I can't say what the controls like in that. But when I was playing it on PS3, I knew those bits in the game which thought if this was touched, it's really pain in the arse. But
that was
PS3,
one of her major complaints, actually, the touchscreen sort of menus and controls for it. But then again, if you've played all the Assassin's Creed with, a PlayStation control pad, in your hand, it's going to sort of, rub you the wrong way, really, isn't it? A touchscreen.
Yeah.
But then for them to change it and bring it to PS3 and I don't know, for me, it doesn't feel like, for lack of a better phrase, but like a solid product. Like it kind of feels...
No, I mean, you do know it's an update or a port up from a handheld device title, You do know that, you do recognise that. But, in fact, here's a way to look at it, right? It's, if anybody's played Assassin's Creed 2 or 3 and gone back to 1 again to think, oh, what it's like in the old days, it's like that.
Yeah, I've done that.
But runs smoother, okay? So I was playing Assassin's Creed, the first one yesterday, Altair. I was thinking, my God, it was really jerky. I forgot how bad the frame rate was, wasn't it?
Really bad screen tear and things like that. That put me off the first one. I never finished the first because it looked really, really dodgy. And I don't know whether... My brain kept telling me, well, it's meant to look dodgy. He's in a virtual world, so it's not going to be perfect. So I was making excuses for it not looking right.
You were retconning it as it was going along, were you?
Yeah, it's like, it's just meant to look a bit like screen teary and a bit jerky and
I have
not
to say,
smooth.
I have to say, though, that it still stands up as a fantastic game. It seems to be a lot bigger in scope than 3 did, and did 4. I mean, 3, yes, okay, you went from Boston to the wilderness to New York. But New York and Boston, they weren't particularly large places. Compared to Damascus and Acre and the other city in the first one, they were huge. I mean, you'd literally not change. You're not from. If you're in Damascus, you wouldn't go to Acre or Jerusalem until you played it for a good 10 hours or so. The cities were that big, and the cities unlocked a bit at a time. But with Boston and New York and Assassin's Creed 3, it's just like, okay, I've run from one side to the other side in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it did feel very short, didn't it? I mean, I'm a big fan of more so the Ezio stories. The
Ezio trilogy is perfect. Yeah,
I've always loved those. I mean, I probably played those so much that I could actually go around Rome and know where I was walking around. Didn't have to check any maps. I knew from the layout where I was. It's scary. Yet in 3, I wasn't that interested. And
no.
I do love Assassin's Creed 4. I think it's a damn good game. It's got me back interested in the series again. But
why, though?
I don't know where.
Is it because it's not an Assassin's Creed game because it's got all the pirating stuff in it? Because, like I said earlier, that to me, I mean, the thing that always got me about all the previous games was all the first Civilization stuff, all the sci-fi kind of historical thing and what's happening to characters. And the fact of Animus and going back to memories and stuff, that was the bit that got me hooked in the series in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
And in 4, it's kind of almost like a bolted on.
Well, I think it's kind of, especially now you've played Liberation.
Yeah.
Liberation built on that, and so did the multiplayer for Assassin's Creed 3. It was very much you are part of Abstergo, you're part of this other organisation that are working against the assassins.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff with the whole real world stuff within 4 that feels a bit odd. It's a bit strange. It's a little too self-referential at times.
Well, in 4...
and it does feel like they weren't sure where they were going to take it without spoiling the end of 3.
Yeah.
They just kind of like went, well, I don't know where we go with this.
Well, the thing I know about 4 was they'd wanted to make the player you, literally that person in the present day bit. And I don't think it works. Because you've had Desmond for 5 games. Suddenly Desmond's not around anymore, for whatever reason. But in the 6th game, Assassin's Creed 4, you're yourself. There's no commentary from that character in the present day stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas all the previous 5 games there was.
My major sort of turn off with the Assassin's Creed series is all this Animus stuff. I've said it before in previous episodes of the podcast that I just wish you were playing, like I said, I can't really comment too deeply on it because I haven't played them, but for something like Red Dead Redemption, which I regard as like one of, if not the best game of previous generation, And well, I'm just saying that's my opinion.
That's a good argument there. I'll give you that.
But whatever, that aside, that's a different argument. What I'm saying is, that's like a period. That's a period piece, isn't it? It's set there in that time. But Assassin's Creed isn't. It's all a simulation, and that's what puts me off of it. That's like, for example, I know this is a bit of a weird connection, but Saints Row 4, when I was playing it, because you're in a simulation and you have all these superpowers which are given to you by the simulation, I didn't kind of enjoy it as much on a story level. If it was set in real life and you really somehow got these powers, I thought I would have enjoyed it more. It's kind of hard to put into words, but where the story makes you very aware that it's not real, like within the fiction of within the contents of the game, that it's not real, this is a simulation going on, it kind of detracts from my sort of enjoyment or my immersion in it within the story. So if if at the end of Red Dead,
exact opposite, I think.
If at the end of Red Dead it turned out to be a simulation, I think I would have been extremely pissed off.
Well, no, I think you would be. I mean, I think the thing with Assassin's Creed 1, I was playing yesterday, was they'd done so many visual effects when you're in quote unquote the simulation that you recognise that. They did a tilt shift effect, which I didn't notice till I was playing it yesterday. So when you're in any combat situation, they do a tilt shift effect, so it looks like that miniaturization you see in photographs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I couldn't remember that from when I played originally. But then other things like when you were near guys to beat up, you had the little like tooltips that came above their heads to show their health and things.
Yeah.
I think, wow, I forgot all about that stuff, and I actually kind of missed that stuff.
Yeah, because I thought that was all really clever. I thought that was a really interesting way. But then they changed it all to the powers, didn't they? And his vision being the ability to identify different types of enemies. So like your gold enemies and things, which I think they had originally in the first one, didn't they? But
the Eagle Vision was in there, but they used it in a much different way. And the comment about Red Dead Redemption, I agree with you. Because Red Dead Redemption is very much a period piece, and if you suddenly turned out to be it was a simulation, then you go, oh, what the hell? But with the Assassin's Creed 1 and partly in Assassin's Creed 2 as well, because they had these overlays and things around what was happening, you knew you were in a simulation. So that made it flow a lot better, shall we say? Whereas in 3 and 4, they don't have any of that at all. And that's like...
I think I'm a bit annoyed with... Because playing through like... all the Ezio trilogy and then into 3, I kind of thought, brilliant, Desmond's learning all these skills and we're going to get a real well Desmond game. A lot of people don't like the Desmond stuff, but I really did. Yeah. I thought I could quite happily have a modern day version, and those modern day missions that are in AC3, I really liked. I thought they were too short and they were too linear, but I really liked them. I thought, I've been playing these games. This character's got this bleeding effect. He's starting to pick up all these abilities from his ancestors by replaying their memories. We can use them. And then when the trailers for like Watch Dogs came out, I thought, yeah, this is actually the Desmond game we've been waiting for. And then it's like, no, it's not. It's a completely different game. Like, oh, bollocks. It's like, why have I been doing all this if it's not actually going to have an eventual payoff?
Well, I've heard the argument about, like you said, Stuart, about like it does feel like a pirate game. And I've watched my girlfriend play this on PS4, and I'm not doubting at all its quality as a game. It looks fantastic. But yeah, it's right. It's like I have the argument the same we have in previous podcasts. The Tomb Raider game, the brand new sort of rebooted one. If you changed a few names in that, changed the title, it couldn't, it's not related to the other Tomb Raider games. It could have been anything, couldn't it? It could have been just another game like that. And Assassin's Creed 4 is like that. It could be just a pirate game. And it did get like criticised in terms of like their choice of sort of story this time round. It's like a lot of people on Twitter, on social networks are like, oh, we would really like to see like a feudal Japan Assassin's Creed set back in ancient Japan. And I think like Ubisoft are sort of like, oh no, we're not going to take such a sort of predictable path with our Assassin's Creed. But, hop aboard for the Seven Seas, we're going pirating.
They even joke about that though in the game. I mean, you read some of those some of those notes they leave around. I mean, I tweeted one on Twitter a while ago about my comment a few podcasts ago about putting zombies in for like a multiplayer like add-on bit, and Connor's hatred of that idea. And looking through the notes, they actually mentioned about the zombies and the hatred of that idea. I'm like, okay, there you go. That's my idea.
There's mentions like feudal Japan in there as well, and I think
Egypt crops up.
French Revolution. I think Egypt's also mentioned somewhere.
I'd
quite like a Ripper Britain version.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I was going to say that the Victorian England or Victorian UK. I mean, there was something I read today actually. They were talking about one of the producers from Assassin's Creed 4. I think it was on VG247.com. There's a piece about the making of it and where the ideas came from and stuff. And he actually says in there about feudal Japan. Now, I kind of hope they don't do that because it's so predictable.
Is a ninja not an assassin?
What you go?
You don't want a ninja. We don't want a ninja. We want an assassin.
What I kind of think
different thing.
What I kind of think will happen is though, they're raising so many flags about this feudal Japan thing everywhere you read about it in game and also in these interviews and stuff. That they have to go 180 degrees from that.
Yeah.
And just go, surprise. And I also hope as well they take a 1,000-mile jump away from piracy and go back to the previous kind of Assassin's Creed games, where it's more based in cities. Because I just think that works much better for an Assassin's Creed game.
I think that was the issue going off to the New World, was that they're not as established as Rome or Constantinople. They're nowhere near as established. These are developing countries that don't have the same populations, that are going through small wars and issues with indigenous people. And there was some interesting ideas within 3, but I don't think they necessarily did it right. There's some interesting ideas within 4. I think Edward Kenway is a better character than Connor.
Oh, yes.
I liked the fact that he's not decided he's an assassin, whereas Ezio, from watching like the film and stuff, the little mini movie thing they did before 2, built up the idea that his father was an assassin and he was destined to become an assassin, and as much as he kind of didn't want to, he kind of took that mantle on and became that. And Connor wasn't like that. Connor was out for revenge all the way through, to the point where it's actually, this is a bit boring. Whereas Edward was very much, I'm just out to make money, and his viewpoint changed through the events, and I thought that was quite clever. That was a different way of approaching it.
I think that go on.
I was going to say, I kind of think that the thing that let me down 3 the most for me was the actor who played Connor.
Yeah, we talked about this around Christmas, didn't we?
He just needed an enema because he was so flat. It's ridiculous. And I know that was meant to be the whole persona, but it just didn't work for me.
It was the first time you meet the guy that trains him, and he goes, "My name is Rahakaton," and he goes, "I'm going to call you Connor."
Yeah.
What? How's that even close?
Yeah.
We'll call you Ray. No, I'm going to call you Connor.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
I'm
not knocking it. That's my name. That's lovely being able to have a game where I'm playing myself as a Native American Indian assassin.
I was going to say, though, that I hope that I would love them to do a Victorian England one, but I don't think they will do, because if they do, they're going to be competing straight against the Order.
That's what I think these days.
Which would so good. But there you go.
That's the one I'm looking
for.
But
I would love to see it being that it turns out that the assassin is Jack the Ripper, and there's something weird goes on with one of the previous subjects within the Assassin's Creed game who was related to Jack the Ripper, and you end up playing through all of those. But it'd end up being probably quite snuffy rather than necessarily an Assassin's Creed game.
Here's the thing, though. Subject 16 from the present-day storyline stuff, he apparently gets lost in his ancestors. Yeah. He goes psycho, so he could be Jack the Ripper, and you could be competing or be battling against him in the story. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting possibilities. I don't think they've run out. I still want a future world one. I want a current, present day one, but I don't think it's going to happen, and I think that's a real shame.
I have to say, when the Ezio trilogy was going on, I actually hoped there was going to be a First Civilization section of the game. You can actually play as Adam or Eve in that First Civilization section. That would be fantastic.
They muddied the whole story, and it made it a bit confusing for me because if you unlock all the subjects 13, like ones in the first one, it gives you Adam and Eve escaping the Garden of Eden, which is the first civilization stuff. And I thought, oh, this is really clever. Where is this going to go? And it didn't really go anywhere. And it's like, oh, that's a bit of a shame.
Yeah. So I've been playing that, and also what's I've been playing? Oh God! Oh, my son's been playing Minecraft on PS3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's only 7. And he's been playing it. It's just like, oh please.
I don't understand the obsession with Minecraft. Can someone explain it to me?
I'll explain it to you very easily, right? Because for 2 years, 2 guys at work played it because I'm like, guys, I don't get it. Then my son got an iPad, and I was like, I don't get it. And he said, Daddy, can you join me with your iPad? So when his one was away from work, I set up a little server, and he joined it, and I joined it. And I was playing with him in the game, and digging down myself and making underground tunnels and stuff. And I thought, this is a bit like Lego, but different, And then I when it came out in PS3, he played it, went to bed about 8 o'clock that night. I was up till 3 in the morning playing the fucking thing. And I kid you not, it is the Lego thing. It is pure Lego thing. Like, you can build things out of blocks. It is Lego. And I still don't get the game. I'll gladly just play it in creative and build shit. And that's it for me. Give me Lego any day.
You see some of the things people build in that, it's scary.
Yeah.
That the one that always impresses me when I see it is the full-sized Enterprise E.
Yeah.
Sorry, Enterprise D. I think that's amazing. What an amazing craft.
Oh, they've done that. I've seen one of someone's recreated Stargate Atlantis.
Really?
Yeah. And
I've not seen that one.
It looks identical in Minecraft version. It's like, how much time have you put into that?
I'll have to send it to a friend of mine.
I'll find
I'd definitely dare start then, because I would be determined to make Babylon 5.
Oh,
I would be absolutely determined.
Are you old enough?
Yeah, of course I am. I loved Babylon 5. It's my obsession, or was at one point.
I watched it as well, man. I loved it.
It doesn't date very well, sadly. It looks very, very of the time it was filmed.
Okay, here's a little name check for you, name drop. A friend of mine was in Atlantis, Stargate Atlantis, and if I told him, because he started playing Minecraft recently as well, if I told him there was an Atlantis version of Minecraft, I think he'd probably camp in it and make videos from it. I'm not kidding. I think he would do. I was like, oh dear.
That's disturbing.
Yes. He's got YouTube channels. He's already done a few things like after Atlantis. Oh, step away from it. It's done. Unfortunately, step away.
That's scary.
And that's all I've been playing. So who's next?
Right. So
Who is next?
Troy,
what have you been
All
up
right.
to?
very quiet.
I don't know if I feel comfortable coming up after that. My gaming hasn't been quite as extensive. I just getting settled in at home. Actually, the biggest game I've been playing the last 2 days is how long can I go without having a meal?
Hey, I like that one. But who else
Yeah,
I played it?
Isn't
Though?
that kind of the reverse version of Don't Starve?
Yeah,
In
it's
real life.
starve. Yeah, no. My wife and I are doing a juice cleanse, and we started yesterday, so this is my second day without eating anything. So, but I do have my juice, which is really tasty. It's kind of crazy though, because like I feel real dreamy. Like my head's like kind of like I can't focus on things very well. Like everything
You've not
feels
got
like
enough
I'm
calories.
in a dream. I'm getting plenty of calories. I don't feel hungry or anything, but it's like it's a weird sensation. And then we went to the store earlier to go buy some more fruit and vegetables to juice, and it seemed like everything in the store I could smell, like even through the wrappers and everything. It was just the craziest thing. Like my sense of smell is just
Don't worry,
gone superhuman.
Are you sure you've not started the mushroom diet? Because that's what it sounds
I was
like.
about to say, I think in gaming terms, you need a health pack and quick.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean, I don't feel bad at all. Like, I mean, I feel normal. I don't feel hungry. It's crazy because like I'm just kind of in this dreamy state, and then like I said, my elevated sense of smell is kind of crazy. But
So
on the gaming front,
I was going to say, so I won't mention I've had a big steak today then.
Oh,
it really.
I was going to
it
say the
doesn't
next
affect me much.
The next cheese and chips covered kebab I'll dedicate to you.
Dude, that's just wrong.
I actually had a kebab
you see
burger
pictures
the other
on
day.
online and advertisements on television, and so I mean it really doesn't faze me much. I heard the first 3 or 4 days are the toughest, so probably by the middle of the week I'll be good to go. Won't probably even miss it much. As far as gaming,
are you doing like 5 days on, 5 days off, or something, or
no?
I'm
gonna go 14 straight days is my plan.
So to coin a phrase, you're going to shit yourself thin.
My wife's birthday falls on the 15th day, which it will be our celebration.
Excellent.
We'll get to eat meals for her birthday. But yeah, the plan is to go 14 days. We'll see how it works out.
Wow, good luck.
It's
going
going to be
alright so
coming
far,
out
though.
here like a broke fire hydrant.
It's going to
Actually, I've heard it's quite the opposite. Like, because you're not taking in any fiber. Like, it's all just juice and fruit and stuff, and you don't have enough concentration of fiber to actually pass anything.
Is it going to be
Yeah,
like when you?
I'll agree with that, actually.
Is it going to be like when you drain a
people who are on
radiator?
a juice cleanse usually have to supplement with some sort of fiber or even what do you call those things? Help me out here, guys. I can't think
I'm
straight.
thinking.
Like
That's because you're not eating, that's why.
Like a diuretic.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. I can't remember the name, but I know what you mean.
Laxatives. There
you
we
go.
See, I'm not thinking straight. That's a word that I should have been able to come up with.
Lack
quick.
of food.
Oh, remember when this podcast was about video games?
Did warn Stuart.
Oh yeah, no, I was trying to work into the video games. We kept coming back to the juice. It's a fun game though. I can't tell you whether or not I recommend it or not yet. I'll let you know probably next podcast.
Excellent.
I did warn Stuart before he came on this episode that it usually involves some form of medical issue with one of these lots. So
That's fine.
do
I mean,
apologise.
This is the first time
the
it's been
guys
mine,
at PS Nation are exactly the same. I mean, the amount of times I criticise Glenn for eating a ton of cheese every damn week just because he's in Wisconsin, you know.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
But there you go.
I do have respect for you, Troy, but I just enjoy being a fat bastard too much.
Hell yeah.
Well, see, and it's not been that horrible. I've heard people have had a lot of more issues with it, but I think maybe I just wasn't quite as out of shape as some people who start off, so it's not that big of an issue for me. I mean, I am definitely out of shape. I mean, I weigh 218 pounds right now, so I mean, I'm not thin by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not as bad off as a lot of people I see walking around, so it's been okay so far. We'll see how it works out.
I've now got Weird Al Yankovic's grapefruit diet going through my head for some strange reason because you're talking about juice.
Okay.
A very, very odd song that is just going through my head. Sorry, that's completely irrelevant.
You guys are really not showing us off in the best of lights. You know that.
Oh, don't
It
even.
is what
If
it
you want me
is.
to start, I will start. But yeah.
Seriously
And
though, gaming,
Welcome to the medical podcast.
gaming though.
Alrighty. So on the video game front, I have actually been playing a little bit more on my PlayStation consoles. I actually haven't played anything on my PS4. I fired it up this morning, accepted some real name requests and whatnot, but I haven't actually got to playing on it. But I have. I got on Gran Turismo 6. I got my daily login bonus up to 200%. So I spent a couple days just working through some of the races and whatnot on Gran Turismo 6, which is really good. And on my Vita,
I was going to say, how are you finding that? Because I've got a couple of people that have been playing it, and there's very different opinions about this game now. I've heard some people say it's better, a little bit better in every way. I've heard some people say it's a little bit worse in every way. As a Gran Turismo massive fan that you are, how are you finding it so far?
I think it is an improvement in every way that I can think of. The graphics are smoother, the load times are a lot quicker. There's a lot more tracks, and which is, I mean, a huge thing for me. Like the ability to run on such a large number of tracks that weren't available previously. That's great. I mean, I can't honestly think of a way that it's worse than GT5 in any way. I mean, it just seems like they've made improvements all across the board. The only thing that once again I've mentioned before, but I wish it was a PS4 game. I mean, I wish I could share, races and screenshots and stuff rather than having to get a thumb drive out to share pictures whenever I take them. It'd be nice to be able to use the social media functionality of the PS4. But otherwise, I mean, it really is a great game. In my opinion, it's one of the two best, if not the best, Gran Turismo game.
Well, I'm an iron whether to pick it up or not, and it's purely because the amount of time I'll be able to give to it. I've got a backlog as long as my arm for the PS3, so I really want to add to that on top of the backlog I'm getting for the 4 already. So every time you talk about it, I get a bit more.
Oh yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I'm maybe halfway through the career. I think I'm getting into the international B races soon, but I mean, it's been a blast. I mean, it just fits like a comfortable old glove every time I get into it. It's like, yeah, I love the Gran Turismo series.
I have to say,
also
I have to say, it bores me rigid.
Does it?
You know, I'll put a hand up and say I'm a Ridge Racer fan. Okay. You know, when it comes to racing games, give me Ridge Racer. Yeah. Gran Turismo, I have a driving license. I don't need to relearn how to fucking drive every time a new version of the game comes out.
Yeah, but the way that you drive, I mean, I've owned a lot of cars that are in Gran Turismo. In fact, one of the cars that I use the most is my twin turbo Supra. I had a 1987 Toyota Supra that I swapped in a Japanese model 1JZ twin turbo engine into, and so I basically rebuilt that car in Gran Turismo. And I mean, but you can't get the most out of that car on the streets. I mean, I never drove in a situation where I could really wring that car out. And what Gran Turismo offers you the ability to really see what a car is capable of doing, because I mean, I don't personally have a real track near me where I could go and drive, or even drive the number of cars that are available in Gran Turismo.
You rolled
so
that
I mean, it really appeals to me.
You rolled that off so well, I almost thought you were talking to a police officer. I've never put my foot to the floor, officer. No, I've never experienced.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, in a straight line, absolutely. But I mean, there's more to racing than a straight line.
I've never opened up the engine, officer. Never.
Oh,
no.
I have to say
with so much crap.
I was going to say, I have to say that one of the guys in our office, Tom, he's a Gran Turismo freak. He's got the wheels and everything. And when the demo came out in the summer, the Academy version, he brought in the wheel, set up in the office, and he was going around to Seoul or somewhere, track it was, and he did a great job. And I thought, give me a try, I'll do it. I can drive cars straight into the fucking wall. so I don't do that anymore.
It's definitely different than the arcade games for sure. I've been playing the Gran Turismo series since they first came out on the PS1. I didn't even have a driving license when it first came out. And then years later, I had a little 1986 Toyota Corolla GTS, the 86 Corolla, a little rear-wheel drive hatchback, and there was an autocross event, basically, where they took a big parking lot and set up cones and set up a course. And we decided to go take our cars out there and run it. So we went, and being first timers, they made you ride, an experienced person ride along with you on your first run. So I went, and when I was going around the track, the guy looked at me, he's like, "Are you sure you've never done this before?" I said, "Yeah, I've never ever done this before. Everything I know about driving a car faster on a circuit, I learned from Gran Turismo." And I mean, it taught me well. I mean, it's great. I even go to the go-kart tracks. My buddies and I went to Vegas for my bachelor party. We ended up running some go-karts, and I was consistently just the fastest guy around the track because I just used my Gran Turismo skills. Everything I've learned about driving a car quick, I've learned through Gran Turismo.
I've heard of people going.
It's a good simulation. It is a good simulation.
I was about to say, I've heard of people going to Vegas and driving, but not in cars before. Or karts even.
Yeah, there's a go-kart track. You know, go-kart track there. There's actually pretty good. They're really quick, actually. As long as you don't have a bunch of slow people slowing you up, which kind of sucks when you're one of the quickest ones.
I've been to Vegas once, and that was CES '95. And when I literally the first night we were there, we walked out of the venue and it was closing, and it was like that scene from the start, from dusk till dawn with Cheech. I'm like, no, I don't want fresh young pussy, old pussy, mid-age. Yeah. It's like, no, go away.
Especially if you're in a group of guys. Yeah, it's like every 5 steps. It's like, hey guys, strip club. Anyone want to go to the strip club? It's kind of nice going with my wife. They don't usually bother me much then.
Yeah. Well, you hope so. Yeah. Oh.
So apart from GT6, anything else you've been spending time with?
Yeah, actually, in my Vita, I got into playing Zero Escape: Virtue's Last Reward, which was a really good game. I was kind of shocked, and I actually was talking to Connor about it. He's like, "Well, I don't care for the RPGs," and you'd be kind of forgiven to think that it was like a JRPG, just with the art style and everything like that. But it's definitely not that. It's more, I take it akin to a choose your own adventure book with a murder mystery. Like you're trying to unravel things with also a bit of the Saw movies thrown in, for good measure, because you're put in these situations where you have to escape from all these rooms, figure out these puzzles in order to get yourself out and find out what's going on, because you basically wake up in this big factory and you don't know what's going on. Apparently, there's somebody nefarious within your ranks, but you don't know who it is or what the whole story behind it is. So basically you're going through and trying to figure this out. And the way the game plays is you run through, you choose your directions or whatever, you get an ending, but then you start over again and you go through and you change and every time you do a new playthrough, it kind of gives you another piece of the puzzle. And so you're trying to, in your head, you're trying to put together everything's going on. And it's crazy because you're just kind of basically jumping around trying to figure out what's happening. It's pretty neat though. I've enjoyed it so far. I'm maybe a third in to seeing the entire game, I imagine. I mean, I've already had like 5 or 6 endings, but yeah, so it's kind of neat because every time you go through, it's like,
how long does it take to kind of play through then for each run? Is it fairly short? Is it a couple of hours or?
Well, my first playthrough took me about 6 hours, I think, and then each subsequent playthrough, because you can kind of skip over areas that you've already, when you're familiar with a situation, you just kind of skip over it. But a lot of times you find that they'll still sneak in little details, that things have changed a little bit each time you play it. It's kind of crazy. Like, it's just nuts because, I mean, every time I play it again, like, it's like, oh, there's something new, something a little bit different, and you're just kind of trying to piece it all together in your head. It's kind of neat.
That's really intrigued me. From like when we were chatting on Twitter about it, I thought, yeah, actually, that sounds more interesting. I just wrote it off as being a JRPG. So it does sound a choose your own adventure book. I loved them as a kid, popping to the local library and getting them and flicking through and getting killed by some massive dragon or something and going, yeah, I don't think I'll pick that page. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, and you could.
Yeah, this is a lot like that, and you could actually bounce back and forth on the timeline. So you could actually go back to the last decision, change your decision, and see what would have happened that way too. So I mean, it's really helpful that way. And I mean, like I said, that's the best way to describe it. It's like a murder mystery, choose your own adventure with kind of a Saw aspect from the Saw horror movies kind of thrown in.
Cool.
Okay then. Daz, what have you been spending your time with?
A little selection of games I've been playing. I recently finished the campaign for Killzone Shadowfall. Kind of disappointed with it, really, to be honest. It wasn't as next gen as it's supposed to be, in my opinion. It was good, but it wasn't.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, but looks aren't everything when it comes to games. The actual gameplay itself was pretty mediocre. I just thought it just felt like Call of Duty in space, really, to be honest.
No, that is COD Ghosts. That's already there.
That really is quite abrasive.
The thing is, I really enjoyed Killzone 3. I thought it was an amazing game. I really liked it. It was quite a lot of different things to do in the game. You had jetpacks and mechs, and you were in the trenches on Helgen. It was dirty, gritty. You had a nice array of guns and sci-fi weapons, like radiation guns and flying mechs and stuff, which you do get in this game. But I'm just saying, this game had none of that. It was just sort of like A to B, go here, do this, zip line there, stop a bomb. It just felt like just like a Call of Duty game in terms of the campaign. It's just like very, very linear. And
how long was it?
I don't recall spending too long on it. Maybe 6 hours, 7 hours. Depends on how like difficulty and
twice the length of a current Call of Duty game. Then,
yeah,
but it's almost a Call of Duty then, with a 5 to 6 hour.
It just really didn't do anything for me. It didn't invoke any kind of emotion. I didn't really care for the characters. The previous game, like Killzone, the previous console game, Killzone 3, it had really charismatic sort of villains in it. There was one played by Ray Winston. He was like a general or something, and the other one was
Brian Cox.
No, Brian Cox wasn't it? But there was another actor. Hold on, his name's on the tip of my tongue. Malcolm McDowell. That was it.
Yeah,
he played Chairman Stahl, who was like a science officer or something, and they were just really cool, like to see the cutscenes of them interacting and arguing. But Killzone Shadowfall had like none of that really. It didn't have that kind of it just didn't have the feel of previous Killzone games. And to be honest, I greatly prefer Killzone Mercenary to Killzone Shadowfall, the Vita game, because I just think it just is a better game in terms of gameplay. And I'm not denying the game doesn't look fantastic. It does. It looks really good, but graphics don't make a game necessarily, do they? I mean, you can have them.
More with that.
I just thought it was just bored. I was just bored through the game. It's like, oh, go here, do this, blow this up. Just sort of generic FPS. But the multiplayer redeems it a little bit. The multiplayer is good as well, and the Warzone modes, which I really liked in the previous games. But I really miss my jetpacks and mechs. I really, really liked playing with the jetpacks and the mechs in Killzone 3's online. It was just sort of something different, you know. You didn't get that in any other online game, like console first-person shooter, you know, comparing it to Call of Duty and Battlefield again. You didn't have the ability to, you know, sit in a jetpack and fly over the map, picking people off from above, you know, or getting in a big robot and stomping on people.
That'll be the next episode.
Yeah, I have to say,
Titanfall.
Don't. I have to say that I detest multiplayer games, so I do solely rate value for money on the single player experience.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more of a single player person anyway. I bought this game for the single player. To me, the multiplayer is just bonus. That's how I feel, and that's why I've completely dropped Call of Duty, because the campaigns are garbage nowadays.
Yeah,
just can't.
5 hours of boringness. You know, and that's as me as a person who's never played a Call of Duty game, ever, and I'm not going to start now. In fact, I was privileged enough to get one of those for the players packs from Sony for PS4, which had Call of Duty in it, NAC, Marvel, Assassin's Creed, and Shadowfall. And I played Shadowfall for an hour, got bored, thought the visuals were fantastic, but I just got so bored of the gameplay. And Call of Duty, I literally gave the disc to a friend of mine because he's a massive Call of Duty fan. I thought, I'm not interested to have the disc, you know. And it's a shame, but I get annoyed with Ubisoft, with Activision, with their give us £55 and we'll give you a game with 2 different games in it, a multiplayer game and a single player game. But I don't want a multiplayer game. I still have to pay the £55 though. No, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying on the visuals. I mean, they were good, but I felt a little disappointed in sections where, I mean, we're in like next gen now, and everything's supposed to be fantastic and whatnot, and the game does look good. But I'm just saying, I've seen better games out there in terms of just like Killzone Shadowfall does that trick of where it loads in the background behind a cutscene of a pre-rendered cutscene, and it is a good trick to use, but you just can't skip it. I would rather look at a blank loading screen than have to watch the same cutscene again when loading the game up.
Originally I would disagree with you, but recently I've played a few games like that where I've seen the same damn loading screen or the same cutscene again and again, and
you can't skip them. It's like you cannot skip loading in background, it says, or something like that on Killzone. It's like, oh, I've already watched this twice. I don't care what's going on anymore. I just want to get into the game. And that was kind of disappointing because the pre-rendered kind of cutscene looks really nice. It's like a uncompressed, like high-definition video, but then it cuts into the games and the character models look a little slightly less unimpressive with like the real-time lighting. And I'm really nitpicking here. I'm not having a go at the game. I'm just saying that it didn't live up to my expectations of this big next-gen launch title.
I'm going to get ranty now about the movies, and this is from a developer point of view, I do not understand why developers are paying for movie playing middleware on any PlayStation brand when the PlayStation Vita, the PS3, and the PS4 all support MP4 playback from development side, from SDK, right? And it's free to use. It's free compression. It's the best compression because it's all hardware based. So you can do loading in the background a lot better than you can do using, say, something like Bing or whatever else to play movies back. It's a pet peeve of mine, a massive pet peeve of mine. And Shadowfall has a big logo that says uses Bing Video. Why? You're owned by fucking Sony, for Christ's sakes. Are you retarded? Sorry, I'm done now.
But yeah, that's what...
Why use it though? From a developer standpoint, why would you use it over just
the only reason you'd use a middleware
in there?
The only reason you use a middleware for movie playback is if you're supporting every platform under the sun, right? And you don't want to have different assets for different platforms.
Right.
Yeah, because Xbox, for example, doesn't really do great MP4 playback because it's not part of the hardware; it's part of the software. So
it's a sort of generic middleware then for like every JoyBox platform.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, for example, we did Stranger's Wrath HD in the PS3 at first. We had Bink in it because the original Xbox version of Stranger had it in it as well. So we just kept that in there and did it. And the game was 3.2 gigs at launch. In November in Europe, and actually in the first week of February in the States, we're released and releasing version 2 of Stranger PS3 with MP4 movies in it, and the game's only 1.6 gigs. Half the size.
So is it that? So it's that application within there that's running the video that causes it to blurt then? So it ends up being blurtware when you don't need it.
It's in some cases. I mean, Bink 2 compression is a lot better than the original Bink, but the Bink 2 only came out last summer. Yeah,
right.
Pretty much every game that used Bink video from when it was originally launched in 1999 through to 2013 was using Bink 1 compression, and it's about 4 times the size of an MP4.
That's bizarre.
And it's not as good quality either.
And it costs you to use it as well, I presume. You have to pay a license fee to...
$15,000.
How much?
$15,000 per platform.
Jesus Christ.
I think that's right.
Lord, that's... So for someone like yourselves who are a relatively small development company, that's a big wacky budget.
I had to argue with Rad Game Tools. And things, the guy that runs it, he used to run it, he's now one of the head sales guys, Mitch. He's a great guy, and I've been working with him since the Smacker video system in 1995. So he's a good guy. But it's the fees are ridiculous. When a platform can give you free video codec usage and playback in it, and you start to play or pay a shitload of cash just because you want something to save you a little bit of extra time having a separate free version, or an extra step. You know, I mean,
that's bizarre.
In New
N Tasty, we're using MP4 on Vita, PS3, and PS4. On PC, we'll have to use something else. We don't want to use Bink, just gets an extra cost to us. But if we can find a codec we can use free of charge or decent compression for a small price, we'll do that.
Sometimes the compression is quite noticeable in like games that utilise that technique of putting a cutscene over a loading section, and sometimes like the compression is kind of noticeable in like backgrounds and that, and I just think like it kind of ruins immersion, because like I like to see stuff in engine. It's sort of like this is the game, and to me, like I know it's a technique, but it's kind of also cheating, especially on like next gen as well.
Yeah, I mean all the cutscenes in New N Tasty are rendered out of Unity. Okay, some of them are rendered real time. A handful of them are rendered to MP4s as movies, just because we can't render them while we're loading other assets in. But those cutscenes, they're story cutscenes, and they're only seen once in the game. As soon as you get past that, it says a checkpoint. You're not going to go back and see that cutscene again unless you play the game from the start of the game. You know, so you're not going to oh shit, I died. Oh god, cutscene again. That's never going to happen for us.
Right, and so what else have you been playing, Daz?
Yeah, so when I was playing Killzone Shadowfall, I thought I will stick with it and try and play the online part of it. Played a little bit of it. But then, for ages, I've had Far Cry 3 sitting on my PS3. And we were talking about it the other day, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to push the old PS4 aside with Shadowfall and just think, look, I'm not having the best of times with Shadowfall, so let's try and get into something where I'm really going to enjoy it, perhaps like based on what other people have been saying. So I started playing it, and my God, what a game. What a game. This game, now, I know this is a funny thing to say, but this one game feels more next-gen than Killzone Shadowfall did. And I'm not talking about visuals, I'm talking about actual core mechanics, just the way everything works. It's just fantastic.
It flows.
I love it.
Really
it's
nicely.
So good. I've played like 3 story missions, and I've spent the rest of the time being John Rambo in the bushes with my bow and arrow. I've just been hunting different animals and making nice looking wallets out of them, as you do.
Well, that's the thing, is the hunting mechanic actually serves a purpose that was kind of lacking really in I think Assassin's Creed 3 didn't really use it.
No, it's pointless.
I dabbled in Far Cry 2 when it was on PlayStation Plus a year or so back, and I really couldn't get into it. Just didn't like it. It just felt...
It's the stopping at the checkpoints that put me off it. Where you'd get to a checkpoint, you'd have to fight your way through, then you'd go on and you'd get to another checkpoint. And it's like, oh God, I can't be arsed with this.
Yeah, four men, a jeep, and a gun and a guy. Yeah. Every single checkpoint and junction in the game. Oh,
yeah, I've seen this before. I don't need this anymore. But yeah, you're right. It flows better. It definitely does.
I played the 2 hours of 2, just didn't like it and deleted it. But 3, I'm just really, really liking it. And I just think it's amazing. Just the way, like I said, I'm not really playing the story as such. I'm just hunting stuff, getting all my stats up, getting a feel for the game. You know, the crafting of the items, the crafting of the herbs and such. And I just really love it. I just think, I mean, the bow and arrow is fantastic, and it's probably one of my favourite video game weapons. I just mean like generic kind of weapon, like a weapon class, because silent, reusable ammo. It's classy as fuck, isn't it? A bow and arrow.
Well, that's amazing. It. Everyone who's played it seems to have played it slightly differently. I like the sniper rifle. I liked getting myself up somewhere high and just picking people off from distance. I think, Graham, you said you'd gone in quite close and was stabbing people, and now you've gone like entering places and taking people out with a bow and arrow and stalking prey.
But that's it, though.
I was throwing grenades.
But that's the sign of a well-made game, isn't it? How you can play it. It doesn't have to be linear. You play it how you want. It's not given. It's like with other games, like, again, I'll reference Call of Duty. When you die, you will always be spawned with like the weapons that are suited for that scenario. But in this game, you can have whatever weapons you want. You could just run around stabbing people, or you could be grenade frenzy. It's entirely up to you. And I'm having so much fun in the first couple of hours of this game than I did with that sort of Space Marine shooter that is Killzone Shadowfall, and I just think it's marvellous, and I'm just having tons of fun with it, and just want to keep... It's one of those games where, you know, you've got a good game on the go where you kind of think about it during your day. It's like, I can really go home and play some X today, you know, because you get hooked, addicted on it, and all the really good games do this. Like, I remember back years, like I said before, Red Dead Redemption. It's like, I want to get home and start, you know, exploring these bits and doing that, and it's the same feel again. And what you were saying about sniping from a distance, it just made me think of the first Crysis, because that's pretty much what I did in the first Crysis. And Far Cry 3 feels a lot like the very first Crysis, and I really enjoyed the very first one because it was big open island, and it's not like an island with wildlife and plants and, you know, bushes and stuff and to hide in and different terrains. It's not something that's quite common in video games, especially
feels
ones
alive. The world actually feels alive. And there's I'd said about it when I reviewed it for the site, is that you'll walk into an area and suddenly something will go bounding past you and like, what the hell was that? Yeah. And then a tiger goes straight after it and you're like, what the fuck's going on here?
I've had a couple of moments like that.
It's amazing. I was exploring and there was a body on the ground and I thought I'd loot it and see if there's anything interesting. 10 seconds later, tiger in my face, just like panicking. I've got a bow and arrow, of course, which is like the drawbacks to bow and arrows, no pun intended, is the fact that it's a slow loading weapon. So I didn't know what to do, so I was just like knifing the air. I did manage to kill it.
Always keep an arrow preloaded.
Yeah, well, I have a gun now. I've learnt my lesson. I have a gun at the ready to switch.
But talking of Far Cry and stuff, next month, I'm segued to the news, unfortunately, but next month is Far Cry 1 on PS3.
Really? The first one?
They're doing a trilogy pack.
Like a collection of them all. I didn't know they were doing one as part of that.
Yeah. The first one's, as far as I know, the first one isn't that as well. So I've been told anyway.
Because I thought it was going to be 2, 3, and Blood Dragon together, but if they're including the first one as well, I might.
No, I was being told by somebody else.
I totally forgot about Blood Dragon. I probably will invest in
That's
it.
Just.
I haven't played it because of the weirdness. It's like, it's supposed to be really 80s and lots of neon. It's like, I don't want to play a game.
No, it's not. What it is, it's futuristic of how we thought about it in the 80s. Yeah. It's not 80s. It's like the picture going around social media at the minute, just saying, remember, next year's the year we're all wearing the crazy outfits from Back to the Future.
Oh, yes, they know.
So, it's no. Too much neon. I mean, this from me, a man who made a neon shooter game, for Christ's sakes. Too much neon. It's just too much. I played the demo and just went, do you know what? I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah, I think if it's taking itself too unseriously, I don't even know if that's a proper expression. Its tongue's so far through its cheek, it's actually visible to people.
Coming out its arse.
Yeah.
Back in its ear.
Yeah, it's just a couple of nice, clever little references. That's fine, but when you set your whole game up on that idea, it's like, yeah, that's put me off. I'm sorry.
But anyway, Far Cry 3,
interested.
what a game to have on PlayStation Plus as well. Amazing, and I look forward to just sinking loads of hours into it, and it's going to be one of them platinum trophies where it was a joy to get. Like, you've got platinum trophies where I got this one and it was a grueling task, or this one was horrible, I really hated getting it but I got it, and this one's like, yeah, this was good, it tested my skills, but this one's going to be, this was great, this was a good platinum to have, because
it's sad when you get to the end of it and you kind of go, I've collected everything, I don't really have anything left to do. Because I really loved the island. The island is a character in its own right. It's amazing. It's so well put together. There's mountains and there's all like little bits that you can kind of go and looking around, and wildlife wandering around, and these bases that you can go and take out. Wow.
PlayStation Plus has worked on me again, because like I didn't have much interest in Far Cry, because prior to 2 I had no interest in it. Played 2, had even less interest in it. Now I've played 3, it's like, well, that 4's looking awfully like promising, so that's what happens. PlayStation Plus just seems to feed you games and sort of get you interested. I mean, it works both ways. Like, sometimes it can put you off a franchise, but sometimes it can introduce you to new stuff, and that's why I'm like complete supporter of programs like PlayStation Plus, where it just gives you a variety of stuff each month to sort of say, like, well, have you tried this? Or this is a really good game, or maybe you've played this game before, here it is again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on it.
I think it's worked. It's definitely worked more in favour for me. I've had more positives than negatives.
I'll tell you why I'm a 50-50 on it. I'm all for it if the game's been out for at least 12 months and it's free. As a businessman and a developer, the idea of launching your game for free on PS Plus is the worst business decision you'll ever make. So not to do
Why?
it.
How come?
Because you get a buyout price from Sony,
Right.
okay? And that buyout price is fixed if you sell 10 copies or 100,000 copies.
Right, okay.
Okay? So they'll go, well, your previous games have sold this much in the launch window, so we'll give you a quarter of that revenue. And you go, oh, okay. Because it's a new game, it might not do as well, so we'll give you a quarter of what other games have made in the first month. You go, all right, then, okay. So you sign up the bit of paper, your game comes out, and it suddenly sells or downloaded 8 times more than your previous game. So that means that 8 times more people have got the game in their accounts. They might download it, they might just gone to PS Plus, go buy, added it, 0 free. Don't download it yet, but they've got it on your transaction history.
Yeah.
So
we're big advocates of that here, by the way. We recommend that if people ain't got Vitas or whatever and they see stuff, just add it to your cart, because you can get it at
But
some
that's
other
us
point.
as gamers, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're a developer, and we're gamers. There's two.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is, I don't mind discounts at launch, but when it's free at launch, it's bad for business, because 9 times out of 10, if, say for example, let's use Stranger's Wrath for example. When we launched that, we did a 4% discount on PS3 back in December 2011. And we still managed to sell 60,000 units fairly quickly. Right? Now, looking at the other way around, okay? When we did a PS Plus buyout, the following year, it was downloaded 225,000 times, but they only covered us for basically 40,000 units.
Christ.
So who decides what game? Do they approach you and say, look, we want your game?
Yeah.
So they just approach you at one day?
Yeah, they approach you, basically.
So there's no
Yeah.
requirements or anything. It's just sort of like no recommendations. It's just, we want your game on PlayStation Plus.
So
Yeah.
if you were a new developer to PlayStation Plus, would you recommend it as a way of getting yourself known and as a way of a developer?
Only if you don't need the revenue.
Right. Okay.
If you're not reliant on that revenue, fine. If you're reliant on that revenue of breaking even through actual sales and then making some more money so you can pay for your next game, don't do it at
How
launch.
can we retrograde then? Because
I don't know what happened with those guys.
They had real problems. When they released it, they didn't make anywhere near the amount of money they potentially would have made by actually just selling it.
Yeah, let me give you a hypothetical here. A game I'm aware of came out as a cross-buy. PS Plus launched for free last year. They were paid €40,000 for that, which covered the development costs. But it was purchased on PS3 and Vita separately, probably 100,000 times each. So you work it out, that's actually 400,000 units in the long run. Because 100,000 on PS3 is also 100,000 free on Vita. 100,000 on Vita is also 100,000 on PS3. That's 400,000 units. The game was downloaded. Okay? Now, for €40,000. But say, maybe only 10% of those people downloaded it there and then and played it there and then, okay? But 6 months' time from now, I think, oh, wow, that game got quite good reviews. I'll get out and play it now. Oh, already PS Plus it. I'll download it now. So, those people, they've not paid for it at all. You know?
Well, you kind of have, because it is a subscription service. If you didn't provide content,
yes,
it'd all be seriously kicking off, and I think that was kind of a bit of
well,
an
no,
issue
indeed, but think about it though. We pay. I mean, I pay for PS Plus. It's what, 40 quid a year, whatever it is, right? But you get almost 300 quid's worth of free software.
But you don't earn that software. That if your subscription lapses, or when Sony decide to turn PlayStation Plus off or the PSN off, and it's now PlayStation Now or whatever it becomes, you technically lose that content.
That's
you
not
don't
going to
earn
happen.
it. If you'd have bought it during a sale on a PlayStation Plus discount, it's regardless of when your Plus.
Yeah, I always make the analogy that PlayStation Plus is similar to Netflix. You don't own the content. You don't keep all of the movies you play on Netflix.
But the difference is though, when you watch a subscription in Netflix, say you watch a movie this month, you say, I'll get it this month, but you don't watch it yet. As soon as you go over your month, you can't watch it again. It runs out. It expires. PS Plus games don't expire unless your subscription expires. But, for example, if my subscription cancelled today, lapsed today, and I pay for it again next week, I've got all that content back again. Yeah? That's the difference. If it lapsed and that was it, gone, fine. But it doesn't. If you renew your subscription at any point, that content is automatically there for you.
But that's the same as Netflix, though. Your subscription, let's say...
No, Netflix has a limit to it, doesn't it? I know they used to.
No, stuff rotates out there. Stuff disappears out.
Yeah, that's true. Some stuff does disappear.
Yeah, I mean, also on the PS Now thing, that's not going to replace PS Plus. Completely separate things.
Do you not think there's going to be... Because we kind of talked about this before when we talked about the launch of or the announcement of PlayStation Now. Do you think content that you've already got through PlayStation Plus will be available through PlayStation Now, or...
I don't think it will. I think it'll be separate.
By the sounds of it, I don't think it will now. With what you're saying is that the deals that you've signed over when you do a buyout on a game, is that's that agreement. That's not for further discussions.
Exactly. It's not. It's separate. But saying that, though, PlayStation Now only applies for PS3 titles. It doesn't apply for PS1 or PS2. It's only PS3 titles. So I don't know. That's a very good question. One might have to ask myself, actually, on a business level.
I wonder how that will work on a business level as well. Because they're not really downloading anything, are they? You're just playing the software.
Well, that's why I'm sure they said it's a subscription-based system.
Well, there's two options, weren't there? There was a buy, like a rent for a specific title for X period of time, and then there was a subscription model. So you had two kind of options. So one's like the coin-op version of gaming, and the other's the Netflix version. It's they've tried to cover both bases, and I think what they're offering does it quite well. Now, you know, the reason they're doing it is not so we can play PS3 games on PS4. It's so in the future we can play all our PlayStation games on any device we have. Okay? The PS3 to PS4 thing is step one. It's the Bravia integration is the big telling factor.
Well, that's the summer, isn't it? I think that's during the summer, isn't it? And then next year we're going to have it on other devices as well, probably, and you have to have it on more devices yet again. But the thing which we're still lacking here in the UK, particularly in probably parts of the States as well, is there isn't the broadband infrastructure for it yet.
A lot of people. A lot of people can barely.
We do need fibre.
Do PlayStation Plus really? I mean, downloading large packets of data through their poor providers. Connor,
I have to say, I think if you have a PS Plus account and you're not broadband account savvy, you want a slap. Because everybody I know has got unlimited broadband.
I've got unlimited broadband. I just have unlimited broadband at 2.5 megabits a second. So yes, I can download.
But that's not your fault. That's your provider fault.
I have no choice because I'm in Hull. We're ring fenced. We don't have the option of getting anyone else.
I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. You should all be on fibre by now.
We should have been on fibre if they had decided the best thing to do was launch internet TV to people who couldn't afford it. It was if that infrastructure had been set up instead of that money being wasted, we would have been a proper digital city, and it was wasted, and it's a big bugbear of mine.
I have to say, my biggest bugbear recently is I was the 5th person in our town to get broadband back in 2001, and it was an amazing 512k, and it cost me £45 a month, right? So this town was the first place outside of Headingley and Leeds to get broadband in the UK, because that's where they developed it in Headingley for consumers. Otley, where I live, and where the office is look, it's 6 miles from Leeds City Centre, okay? And we're the last people to get fucking fibre. I kid you not. Ours is installed a week today, but we were promised it 2.5 years ago. Every other town, even fed from the same exchange I'm on, has had it for at least 12 months now already for BT. So I get slightly peeved by that. Thank
really
Christ.
Frustrates me because now is that from the press release it's saying it's going to require at least 5 megabits a second. Well, I'm only getting half that, so there's no chance I'll be using it. And maybe I will get.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
but
by the time I think was it Eurogamer last week said it's not due here till next year. Hopefully by that time you should be okay.
I'd hope so. But they are rolling it out to areas, but they're not rolling it out to the areas I want them to. I lived in the centre of town, and when I moved into the flat there, I'd phoned them up and said, I want to get broadband, what kind of speed can I expect? And she tested the line and said 12 megabits a second. I went, wow, Christ, that's brilliant. Because I was in town, I was close to the exchange, and it wasn't fibre.
Yeah.
When I moved out, I've moved out a good way closer to the university, and did a speed check with them. She said, you'll maybe get about 3.5. And I went, what? And I'm paying the same amount of money? What's going on there?
Here's an example for you. When our old office was right bang in the middle of town, about 250 yards from the exchange, and we could get 30 meg download on a regular broadband, right? It said up to 24 meg, but we could quite happily get 30 meg on Usenet access. We move the office to where we are now, which is probably 1.5 miles further away from the exchange, and it dropped from 30 down to 7, right? And we ended up getting 2 lines bonded until we could get fibre, so we were totaling 12 to 13 meg down and 2 meg up. When we were doing Stranger with our QA company on PS3, it would take 5.5 hours to send it to them.
It'd be quicker actually sending them the device, and cheaper probably, send it in a taxi.
Well, no, because we're obviously in Yorkshire, down in Guildford, so it's a bit far. But then when we did Vita version, we had, literally a month before we started queuing Vita Stranger, we had fibre installed at the office complex, because the people who run the site said, look, we're giving everybody fibre, and we pay 120 quid a month for that, but we get 80 meg down and 80 meg up. So we ended up sending it in 20 minutes.
Makes a difference.
How do they go about putting your software onto PlayStation Network? Do they have to add anything to it?
No, it's as it is. I mean, we're actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but we're actually Strangers included in the beta, the closed beta at the moment.
Okay.
In Southern California, and it will go to the public beta as well whenever that starts. I think it's Easter time it starts. I think it is. So we're already in that. And when I had the call back in November about it, they just said, we just take the game that we've already got on PSN and we run it.
Wow.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So,
do you end up having to pay a set fee then for it to be there, or?
No. It's part of our regular deals. The only difference is the revenue split, if you like. It's a little bit different percentage. It's not much.
So do you pay any additional for it being on front pages and things like that, or?
Right. Here we go. As a publisher, all we pay is 30% basically, like you would do with Steam and everybody else. Okay? We get 70% revenue. So if we sell digitally at 10 quid, we get 7 quid less.
So
VAT.
is this? And are you allowed to set the price yourself? Then can you turn around and say, "I want my game to sell for £100"?
Yeah.
I know you wouldn't, but can you do that? Well, look at what's going on with the PS4 games or the PS3 ones, where EA and Ubisoft are selling the games at 60 quid for a non-physical copy of a game.
This is a bit surprising, I'm about to tell you, but it's completely on the money here. But when we put a product out there, we give them a wholesale price. Same for the States, we give them a wholesale price, which is a trade price basically, which is our I think Stranger, for example, was €7.40 wholesale price, which they then add on their 30%, and then they add on VAT.
Right,
okay. In the States, it's just 30% because that's what they take. There's no tax for PSN sales to the figures we see. But when we put it on there, we have a guideline of these are the steps and stages you can have from 79 pence all the way up to whatever. But Sony and indeed Microsoft can turn around and say, do you know what, guys? We like that you want to charge $100 or £100, but our advice to you is not to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Our recommendation is to you don't go over 25, for example. Right. So you can set the price, and they can advise you, and then they can say, we're not allowing you to put up there 100 because that's just ridiculous.
Even though their cut would be higher, though, wouldn't it? Because it'd be a 30%.
But it's based on whether people would actually buy. Yeah, but people wouldn't buy it, though, will they? It's like you've got to see what your customers are willing to pay based on previous sales of everything. It's like, oh well, I can charge. I don't know. I've got a can of energy drink here. This is the best energy drink in the world. It's
supply and demand model. That's all
it's like this is £100, but they sell it down the road for like £2.
You'll sell 2 copies at £100, or you'll sell 200 copies at £2.
Precisely.
Whatever. But on the pricing thing, and this is one of my biggest bugbears, and this is where you're starting to see a lot more special editions and limited editions versions of games coming out at retail. If you advertise, say for example, I release Assassin's Creed 4, box standard version, and its retail price is $49.99. By European law, I have to sell that for $49.99 everywhere.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Which is why you're seeing at retail collector's editions now with things in the boxes for £5 to £10 more at least than the digital version.
That's why Edward's winking at me from on my shelf.
Quite probably, yes.
His pole just winking at me, going, "There."
See, a lot of people.
Oh yes.
What kind of pole's he winking at you from?
Mast.
Ooh,
It's a mast. It's not a pole.
There you go.
A lot of people don't seem to understand the financial side of video games. I mean, a lot of people out there are not as savvy as present company, for example. And I've noticed before on Oddworld's Facebook, people are like, oh, when are we going to see Strangers coming to disc for PS3? And a lot of people don't seem to understand that you guys are small developers, and the cost of printing on disc. It's like, look, digital.
I'll give you an example, right? If we did it on Xbox 360 at retail, we would have to produce a minimum of 50,000 discs per territory. Okay? Right? That comes to, for 2 territories, 100,000 discs, $1.2 million.
Yeah. It's a fair outlay,
So we have to spend that to manufacture retail. This is without marketing budget. Just for manufacturing the discs themselves, $1.2 million for 2 territories, 100,000 copies. So that's why you sell them for
and you don't even guarantee any sales on that significant.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, and then you still have the cost of development and stuff factored into that.
I'm just wondering, without prying into this subject too much, but would the way you said Microsoft and discs, is that because of your issues, to put it lightly?
No. I've never gone down the route of asking Sony how much it is to do retail, because we're never going to do retail with Sony or anybody else. The only reason I know about Microsoft is because the rules they had in place for 360, in fact, that's probably still are in place. For you to release digitally on 360, you have to have released at least 2 titles at retail first.
Right. I understand that.
So I actually looked into how do we get to retail? How much does it cost? And it's 50,000 units per territory, minimum spend. You can do it in the States only, but you're going to piss off European fans. You do it in Europe only, you're going to piss off the US fans. So $1.2 million basically. And I was just like,
because that's the sort of one top demand I've seen on social networks towards you guys. It's like, when's there going to be a Xbox version, and you guys just have to keep repeating yourselves, don't you, on the social networks? You're like, we want to.
We would love to. We want
of course
to.
You do.
But the Microsoft guidelines for 360 make it impossible for us to do so.
Have said thingamie their recent change in developer
ID Xbox thing. All right, I'm not going to go into that too much, but what I'm going to say though is the idea Xbox thing, even though Microsoft are moving in the right direction, they're still not in the right place yet. And what I mean by that is, look at Sony and Nintendo. We are seen as a third-party developer publisher. That's it. We could be Ubisoft size, we could be the size we are of 15, 16 people, right? Sony and Nintendo don't give a rat's ass who you are, what you are. You apply to them to be a publisher. They say, okay, what games are you going to do? You go, this one, do. Well, how are you going to release them digitally? Okay, on you go. Right? Microsoft still say, well, no, you know what? We're going to highlight you as indie developers at Xbox. We don't need that. We just want to have the ability to publish on your platform. But you're an indie developer, so we're going to make it really special. You're an indie developer at Xbox. And whilst I love the fact that they're moving in the right direction, and I welcome it, I think they still have a ways to go yet.
I remember, I think, with platforms, they have all their set rules and such, and sometimes it can be a real killer to their audience. I mean, for example, Nintendo, their Nintendo, whatever they call their network these days. I remember the
eShop.
Is it eShop or whatever it is? Remember the story of Super Meat Boy? They couldn't get it on there because of the restrictions on file size. They had to just keep cutting it down and cutting it down and cutting it down. And eventually they were just not happy with the product because it was so far removed from their original vision of Super Meat Boy. They were just like, we're just going to give up because if it ever does get on the Nintendo network, it's going to be a bastardization of what our original thing was. And
same issue with Xbox, because the reason we got full-size retail games to download was because Sony allowed it. They didn't have a problem. If you wanted to put a 20 gig file to download on there, you could. Microsoft said, no, your games on here have to be under a certain file size.
Well,
is that not true?
This is yay and nay. In the old XBLA days, probably going back 2 years plus, there was literally a 2 gig file size in the system. That was it. The file could not be bigger than 2 gig, the way the XBLA system on the drive worked. That was it. Couldn't go above that. But you could do games on demand, which was done in a slightly different way. Okay. Games on demand and the file system was stored differently. So those could be done. But XBLA games could not be larger than 2 gigs because of the way the whole system worked. Now, I know about 18 months ago at least, they changed it and they basically rewrote, I think when they rewrote the whole UI thing more Metro-esque, they went into the OS and changed the system so it didn't have to be 2 gig. It could be whatever size it needed to be. So that's why you're starting to see larger games on XBLA now. And that was something Microsoft learned, that, hang on, we're restricting ourselves because in the future, games are going to be bigger than 2 gigs.
That's really odd. It's really odd because it isn't like FAT32, like the maximum file size is 4 gigs, so they're doing it as like half that size.
Yes, because you got 2 gig for your game itself, then there's 2 gig basically
installer type thing or something like that.
Yeah, kind of thing. Not quite the same as, because obviously PS3 you've got package files which get downloaded and then installed and delete the package file. With the 360 you download it and you run it from that.
So it's like an executable
full
type
file. No, it's more like a zip file, to be frank. It's like an archive file basically, which sits there like a virtual drive, like a VM effectively. And the VM is more like a encapsulated data system which is stored like that with a file system inside it, and blah blah blah. So that's the way that worked. But it's because of that system that they had the 2 gigs limit, basically.
Because the rest of the packaging around it had to fit within the size for them to be able to deliver the package itself.
effectively, I don't know the exact details, but the way it was told to us that the 2 gig limit was down to the way the encryption system and the security system worked in the file system of the machine itself. So, but they changed that, which is great. But it's just right now for us. We're talking to Microsoft still. People know we're talking to Microsoft. We're trying to get. We would love to get New and Tasty onto Xbox One and hopefully 360. We don't know yet.
I thought it was definite. Early on when Xbox
One
was kind of announced, it was all like, New and Tasty's coming, and then nothing.
Well, we already announced New and Tasty for the 360 because we got concept approval. Under the proviso, we got a third-party publisher. Yes.
That's where it tripped a lot of people up, isn't it, with indie developers? They needed a third-party publisher.
So can you not set yourself up as a third-party publisher as well, then?
Oh, yeah, but they have to publish to distant retail.
Jesus Christ.
That's crazy.
But that doesn't apply to Xbox One, as far as I know. Especially not with the idea Xbox thing. We're still talking to them. There's a couple of issues I've raised with them, which, we would like to get by, and until they can give us approvals on those or a nod in the right direction for those, we can't move forward. And the biggest one for us right now, I suppose, is the parity issue of releasing at the same time, simultaneous releasing. One of the things I discussed when Stranger didn't come out for 360, when we were originally down for it, Microsoft came to us a week and a half after we announced the PS3 version of Stranger HD. Which is a year and a half before the thing came out, for Christ's sakes. And when eventually PS3 came out in December 2011, Microsoft turned to us in January 2012 and said, "Well, we want a simultaneous release." Yeah, but we've been talking to you for 16 months at this point. You knew it was coming. You knew we had a date. And here you're telling us a month after that date that you want a simultaneous release?
So you need to be a little more clear early on if that's what you want. I was really surprised with it coming to PlayStation because Strangers was an Xbox game, wasn't it? It never...
Yeah, but it wasn't published by Microsoft.
And I thought it was owned by Microsoft and that we would never ever see it. So when it did come out, it was like, oh, brilliant, because I always wanted to play that.
I remember even years before that was Munch.
That was all my fault.
Munch was supposed to be on PS2. I remember having a sticker that said Munch's Odyssey coming to PlayStation 2. Then it became an Xbox exclusive back in the day, didn't it?
That was purely. There was also rumours going around saying that the reason that happened is because Microsoft paid Oddworld a massive fat paycheck to switch sides. Bullshit.
There was also rumours that it wasn't the PS2 wasn't easy to program for, and they didn't want to bling it out on that platform. And Xbox was
that
so
is
much
the exact
easier.
reason.
Is that the reason? Is that actually
that
why?
Was the exact reason. That is the exact reason. Because the original programming team at Oddworld Inhabitants, who did Abe's Odyssey and Abe's Exodus, were working on Munch. Those guys only ever written 2D games before, and here they go. So they've been told to do 3D stuff. And no disrespect to those guys, they didn't get it. And Microsoft said, "Look, this is the new system we're working on. It's a PC in a box. We know you guys have already got Munch running on a PC for development purposes.
Why not bring it here? And then you can do
the PS2. And that was the basic.
Now that you sort of mentioned that transition from 2D to 3D, like when playing, like you said that the people who worked on a 2D game were now developing a 3D game, so that they were out of their comfort zone. Now you saying that, now thinking back to when I've played Munch's Odyssey, because I'd never played it on the Xbox, I've played the HD, it kind of has that feel to it, like it is actually the old games, but it's just been brought out into 3D, the spacious areas. Now that you say that...
I mean, there was some things which the translation didn't work for at all. I mean, you remember the original 2 games, there was a certain type of mine.
Yeah, the mine.
Where you basically, you couldn't get past it because it's
But in 3D, you could just walk around it, couldn't you?
Yeah. So what they had to do was, they basically did the opposite of that. They created a path which was free and put mines everywhere to make that path. It was the opposite mechanic. But what happened with Munch was, once they switched to Xbox, they were still a few months away from release. The game wasn't going the way it was meant to go. It was probably going to miss launch. So they brought in some new programming guys. I think 4 or 5 of them came in and replaced most of the original programming team. And they basically rewrote the entire game effectively in 9 months. 10 months effectively. And those guys stayed with Oddworld to the very end, until 2005. They wrote the Stranger's Wrath engine. They wrote Stranger's Wrath. those guys. There's Charles Bloom, who's the lead on it, a guy called Dave Moore, Thatcher Ulrich, Drew Card, and Mark Hernandez, to name 5. And those 5 guys, actually, when we started in the PS3 version, we spoke to those guys, and they helped us no end to understand some of the technology and tools. I mean, for example, we were using a system called SVN for our source control when we started it, but then we found out the whole build tools for Stranger were built on and into Perforce version control systems. So we had to switch to Perforce to be able to build game data. You know, and if we didn't ask those guys, we would have been
staring at the code,
scratching our heads for months. Yeah, you know, so those guys were fantastic. So they stayed through from Munch all the way through Stranger's Wrath, and the start of Vangus Claw. You know,
they were obviously very proud of that product then, and wanted you to carry on keeping the essence.
Well,
of it
here's where it came out. I met
because didn't you redo everything? Where all the original assets redrawn and things like that for
right. Well, not everything. All the characters were. There's 85 characters in the game, and they were all rebuilt from the ground up. You know, Stranger went from 3,000 polys to 20,000.
I've seen the comparison pictures. It's very impressive. Really impressive.
And what we did, the way we didn't do it, we didn't go up the way. We literally took the 510,000 poly model from the cutscenes and went down to 20,000.
Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing the comparison picture was Xbox version, the cutscene version, and then PS3. Your like in-game real-time character model. And there wasn't really too much like up close, obviously, but just sort of naked eye kind of. They're very, very similar to the cutscene one, and like I said, it was really impressive.
And that's what we were quite chuffed at how we managed to do it. I mean, the guy did the models for us, Ant, he was a genius to us back then. You know, because literally when we started doing the PS3 art, we hadn't even finished the PC original release. So we started the PS3 art in September 2010, and we released the original PC release in December 2010, and then programming didn't start on PS3 Stranger until March 2011, and that was our CTO Steve. He literally worked on it from then through to mid-September all on his own. We got a new programmer started, and he worked with us until mid-November till we finished it.
Wow.
So Steve pretty much did the entire game in 8 months.
Just have to about like taking the original game. Like I've sort of, from my talk of platinums earlier, obviously I'm quite the trophy hunter. Okay, and I do have the platinum for Stranger's Wrath on PS3.
So do I.
Anyway, I was just wondering, like, I know Sony has, or Microsoft or whoever, they have like strict rules when applying achievements and trophies to a game, their requirements. But how does your sort of team kind of choose where to drop them in? You know, I mean, I understand like after bosses, and like parts of the story. But for example, the trophy for you have to get X amount of moolah before you cross the river to get to the doctor. Like, how do you choose to put that kind of stuff in a game?
Well, that was one of the easier ones, actually. We knew full well that the point of the game before you got to the dock, you had to get 20,000 moolah to get your operation. Without giving you a spoiler away for the story. And we literally said to, we've got a guy in our office called Will, who's part of, he helped run oddworldforums.net, and he's a member of staff with us now. We turned to him and said, look, how much moolah can you actually get in the game? He said, I think the highest record on GameFAQs was 24,000 moolah.
Uh-huh.
Right, so it's possible to get 20,000. Great. Let's put a trophy in there for you. Get 20,000 moolah at that point.
So you
great.
actually look at
as it turns out,
of other people who've played it, and they've gone,
I suppose you could
use that. That's really clever.
Well, you could get loads of moolah, couldn't you? Because you can farm it out of NPCs around.
Well, no, you can't. The limit you can get is 27,500.
So eventually it stops. Because you could bump into residents of New York and all of that. And
once you've twatted all New York City guys, twatted all the people in the first town, gives a gulch and stuff, and got all their moolah. That's it, 27,000 odd. Yeah, so it's not like
I ran into a lot of them to try to get that trophy.
They stopped bunging it out. But the 4 trophies we had the most fun with there's one called a bridge too far, where you have to jump over a blown up bridge, and we thought you could only do it one way, and that was reverse way heading towards the town again, not away from the town. It turns out if you get at the right point, you can do it both ways. So when we did the Vita version, we had to fix it because the PS3 version only worked one way. So the Vita version, you can get the trophy going either way. Then there was the in later on in the game, there's a bit where you're basically going through a barracks, effectively. And there's these two guys on the shitter, basically. They've got diarrhea, effectively. He goes, oh, I made too much fuzzle pie. And we thought, let's have some fun with this. In Munch's Odyssey, there was a product called Butt Flow, which is a laxative. So we literally hid we put the model of Butt Flow bottles up in the pipework above the toilets in that section of the game. So if you found those, you got a trophy. Another one was, we'd had a laugh about this. We thought, let's put in some Rupture Farms barrels.
Oh, those bloody barrels! Them. I missed one. I had, and it was the one. Do you know the final run-up at the very end of the game?
Yeah.
Missed that one. Had to play the whole bloody game again just to get that barrel.
What? Will I depress you?
The what?
I depress you a little
bit.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually a bug in the older versions of the game, which basically means you can only have to get 5 to get it. If you get a barrel, then die. Get the barrel again, that's 2 barrels. So I thought, I did it, and I thought, hang on a minute, I've only got 6 barrels. How the oh my god! So that was that's fixed now.
I really the Mudokon Pops barrels, Rupture Farm barrels, they were great.
People loved that.
Yeah, I mean,
they love because they're like, wow, it's proper Oddworld.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a massive fan, so I appreciate all the little subtle references. You know, like you said, butt flow. And stuff.
That's actually version 2. The Mudokon Pop version 1 graphic we had in the game, we had to take out the age rating. It was, if you remember back,
it's the head on a stick, isn't
it? The original, it is, yeah.
We literally modelled Mudokon like, heads. A Mivvy, but with eyes and stitches, isn't it? A blue Mivvy.
Yes, but that graphic existed as well in Munch's Odyssey and in Abe as well. So there's 2 versions in Abe's Odyssey. There's the one with the lollipop wrapper, effectively, and there was the one which was the head with a spike through it. Now, we actually made the head with a spike through it, and we went, Jesus, that's the story.
There was always one poster I'd always like, and it's the the anatomy of a Mudokon in the Rupture Farms. I loved that. I remember trying to draw that as a kid because I just loved it, like just the anatomy of a Mudokon, basically.
We're actually considering doing all those posters as real posters to buy.
Oh, please do. I'll buy them.
You're going to send him off now.
I'll buy them all.
Go on. Listen, there's another trophy as well we did, which was the last one. It's a hidden one, and it was the farmer, Farmer Beaks.
I believe so.
Yeah, you had to kill him. And the way you did that was you had to put him in the big apple press on his...
the apple grinder.
And you had to basically punch him in there.
Lure him in.
Now, it's easy to do, though. It's piss simple to do. If you tried to lure him in, it took ages. But if you punched him out of the house into outside, it was fine. You could just keep punching him all the way into it. Take a couple of seconds or so. But the reason that worked was because if you punched him off his nav mesh in the building, it broke his logic, so he would just stand there still. If you punch him inside the building. So you just punch him into the apple press, electrocute it.
Nice. I was wondering, when you I can understand how trophies are triggered when you achieve a certain amount of moolah, but when jumping a bridge, how do you set a trigger for a trophy
that? That was a pain in the arse. You literally had, because it's the thing. Stranger's Wrath was built using Maya 4.5 back in 2004. So all the tools for level design were built in Maya 4.5. We had to set up a virtual machine to be able to use Maya 4.5 to do this. So we actually edited all the levels, because all the achievement and trophies were all triggered through scripts. Right. All the scripts were actually in the level data. So we had to go into Maya, edit the scripts, rebuild the data, blah. But in the cases we had to do things like that, and again, same thing with the butt flow thing. We literally had to make a trigger volume. So if you went through it, especially on the bridge one, we put 2 trigger volumes, one at the start of the bridge gap, one at the end of the bridge gap. If you went through the first one, you triggered it, and if you then went through the second one without touching the ground, it said you managed it.
So basically it's like jumping through the loops, jumping through loops.
Effectively, yeah, but it's 2 huge big rectangle cuboids, each side of that bridge covering the lip of the bridges.
That's cool.
The blown up bit. So yeah, it's a pain in the arse, frankly. Especially for a game like that, because we're retrofitting it into a game that already existed. when you're creating trophies in a game that you're making the game, you can do it as you go along. Whereas with Stranger, it's literally, the game's finished now, right? Let's put trophies in. Yay.
So you're better doing them on the way, kind of working out where do you want stuff to go. Is that how you kind of design stuff now then, Rad? If you're doing something new,
normally,
this would be a good place to put it, or this would, or do you sit and work out ideas for trophies because you've got like a script there and you know roughly
we've been talking about the trophies for New and Tasty for about 15 months now.
Oh God.
You know, there's one. I have to ask one Oddworld related question.
Oh,
just
go on.
It's always baffled me. Okay, this is also based upon the poster I mentioned, the Anatomy of a Mudokan. I have the first 10 years leather-bound art book. Like I said, big fan.
I'm blessed.
On the back of Abe, is that a knot for his loincloth? He doesn't have a tail. There's no bone there. They're called.
No, it was originally meant to be like a little pocket.
Because that's what I thought. It looked like a pouch or something. But he doesn't. The only thing he ever carries was rocks or grenades, but from like vending machines. But I never really understood what that is.
That was a pouch to carry things in.
Because I've looked at all the concept art, obviously in the book, and it's kind of like variations of it and whatnot. And it's just always baffled me. I always assumed it was like
the other thing as well, which you'll see in New and Tasty, which you didn't see in the original Abe games. Is because the original Abe games, all the Mudokan slaves were basically just a different colour version of Abe. What happens is when those guys are depressed and in Rupture Farms, for example, they don't have ponytails. Because they only grow when they're happy.
Really?
Wow.
So the natives, not the slave ones, but the native versions of Mudokons have got ponytails. The slave ones don't.
Wow, so this stuff with
jalapeno, you see that in New and Tasty.
They're stressed out.
It's more the other way around. It's more of a case of when they're happy and ecstatic, these feathers grow out of their head. Because that's what they're meant to be feathers. Okay. That's why if you remember in Abe's Exodus, the shaman ones have got huge feathers. And that's why.
Because they're blissed out.
I just really love all the Oddworld lore. It's just love like trying to theorise and such.
There's some of the, including Lorne, wrote a time encyclopedia of Oddworld, which covers like 1,000 years of its history and other species we haven't seen yet.
Because there's more continents of Oddworld, isn't there?
We've only seen Mudos so far. Yeah, that's the one we've seen so far of Mudos. And there are a few bits alluding to history of Oddworld. Especially in Stranger, there's a bit when you're going after Eugenius where you need to do a rope climb above four concrete pillars with steel girders coming out of them, and you go to a destroyed old style concrete bridge with steel running through it, alluding to time long ago when there was more civilization there.
Because I mean, the valley has been dried up for it.
Mungo Valley.
Or are you talking about a different? I mean, that entire area.
Obviously
has suffered greatly from the valley being dried up. But you mean like a sort of precursor to what?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of ancient stuff. I mean, like in Necrom, loads of evidence of ancient stuff and
time before
the elders and or weirdos, as that he calls them. And anyway, I don't want to talk about it because I'm literally going forever because I cannot stress how much I love Oddworld.
Can we get the Kleenex?
Oh, now you just ruined it. You just ruined my childhood.
Anyway, is that what you've been playing?
This is like 1 hour later. That's the only other thing we're playing is Rayman Legends on Vita, just dabbling. I've only played a little bit, but it's really good. Really enjoyed Origins, and I've been playing Connor's Ghost in some of the weekly challenges.
That's good because I was going to cover that, so that's quite a nice segue.
Yeah, so you might as well take it from there to me. Or whoever.
I've played very, very little, as Daz has alluded to. I've played Rayman Legends on Vita because it was cheap on PlayStation Plus. I bought Origins on PS3 when it first came out, and it was under 20 quid. And I loved it. I played it with my girlfriend. I played it with my nephews. Adored it, and then paid full price for it on Vita. So I basically bought the same game twice. for Origins.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Visually,
Legends.
it's gorgeous. The animation's beautiful. It's an old school platform game. It reminds me of playing Sonic and things like that. And it's very innocent and it's very fun and the music's good. And Legends, I was sucked into the hype, as we kind of have mentioned, I think, when we were recording, to do with it being on Wii U and it being an exclusive. And I saw the Ubisoft press conference for it and I thought, wow, that looks genius. I so can't wait to play that on whatever the next PlayStation device is, using my Vita, because they showed off the Wii U controls where one person could control one of the characters and other people could play and they could interact and stuff. I thought that'd be brilliant for Vita. And from what I know, that's not actually coming. That functionality is not going to be there for the new version for PS4. So I thought, well, stuff it. I'll pick the Vita version up. I won't pick the PS3 version up because I probably won't get a chance to play it. And the Vita version's lovely. It's still got the same beautiful hand-drawn art style. It's still a lot of fun. It's still very, very silly in parts. The music, there's some sequences where they're kind of like a bomb through a level, but there's music kind of going on.
That was amazing to play. That
first
really
one is so good.
Castle Rock.
Yeah, that's it.
It's Castle Rock.
It's so good. You've just got to time your jumps over, and your timing your jumps goes in time with the music that's going on, and it's lovely. I just went, this is brilliant.
Just going back to what you just said about the look of it, like hand drawn. When just the style, you get so immersed in it that you forget that those dragons are actually rendered in 3D. It's you just think it's like the animation, like the painting coming to life, and even on Vita, it
pops.
Looks amazing.
It really pops. The visuals to it are gorgeous. I picked it up because I wanted a quick play on the bus to work game, and
works well on a handheld, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Because the levels are a reasonable size and you can just kind of bomb through them. But I played it a few times on the way to work and got completely hooked, and then spent a day playing it sat on the sofa, thinking, well, this is supposed to be, and just gorging on it rather than going, yeah, I'll just play it on the bus. I'll just do little levels here and there, and just gorging on it, and went, this is absolutely glorious. My biggest issue, though, is the fact that it includes remixed Origin levels, which I felt really, really cheaped by. It's like, I've done all of these. I've played through Origins. Why are you giving me the levels again? I know it's cheap for you. I know it's easy for you. And if you've never played Origins, it's brilliant because you get loads of extra levels. But if you have, it's a bit like, well, why are you giving me these again? It's a bit like a Call of Duty map pack. And it's like, I don't want these again. I want the original stuff. I'd held off on...
And they added on to the requirements for the trophy as well, aren't they? It's like you have to collect all the lums from them.
Well, that was another issue, and one of the reasons I held off is when it was announced on Vita, there was a lot of controversy over the fact that there was levels missing and there was numbers of lums missing, and it looks like they've patched all that in. So that's one of the reasons I picked it up. I think it was under 15 quid. And it is glorious. And another issue is that, like with the Origins levels, when you get to the very final set of levels, if you've ever completed Origins, if you collect all the tricky chests, which are like races where you have to time your jumps perfectly to get a chest and open it up, those levels were rock hard, and I spent hours and hours doing them. And they opened up a very, very special level at the end, which was in the underworld type thing. And I never completed that because it was bloody hard.
It was ridiculously hard, the Livid
That's
Dead
it, yeah,
levels.
That's the one. But it was beautiful. It was so much fun. And when you actually complete all the levels in Legends, all it seems to do is open up a lot of the other levels, but done with filters on them. So you end up with like an 8-bit filter, or you end up with a fisheye lens filter. And I'm like, why are you making me play these levels again, but making it harder for me to play them? I'm not actually enjoying this now. So it doesn't give the payoff that I kind of wanted. The bonus fact to it is, I don't know what the multiplayer is like, whether you can actually play online. I need to grab Daz and have a go and see if you can do it the way that you would do with PS3 or with Wii or whatever. But there's challenges. You can do time challenges, as Daz said, and I've been going against Daz's and Retrogen, who's Craig Vaughan from Replay Events, because their scores have been on there. So I keep going on and trying to beat their like daily challenges or weekly challenges.
Yeah, it leaves a ghost of your PSN friends in the level, and you have to beat the ghost, and it's quite fun. Actually,
it's nice. It's nice. There was the one where you had to kind of float down and collect as many lumps as you're kind of going down, and that was actually really hard. And then I sussed it and went, oh, I know how to do this. And then I think I beat Craig's score, and then I beat yours, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to stay. And I don't know whether you've been back and beaten it, because I ended up getting addicted to something else. My Vita at the moment is my main gaming system. As much as I've got a massive backlog of PS3 stuff, I dabbled on the DLC for AC4 because I picked up the season pass because I found out it was going to work with the PS4 version as well as the PS. And that is so hard to start off with. I couldn't get my head around it because it's almost like a rhythm action game. It awards you depending on how you time your landing. So you'll kind of do like down and then flip up, and you'll go up in the air, and then as you clear over whatever object, you tap X as soon as you hit the landing. So if you don't time it right, you get a sloppy landing, or you can end up with a perfect landing. Ideally, you want a perfect landing because that gives you more points. But trying to get like the timings right is so hard, especially on certain levels where you've only got small pieces of land that you can kind of skateboard on. So you've got to flip over a bit of debris, land, then flip over another bit of debris and land, and then flip over another bit of debris. And if you misjudge your speed, you just end up in the debris, and it's like bump. But the levels are short enough for you to kind of go, I've buggered that up. You can tap the top left of the screen to reset, you start again, and away you go again. And once you start to click with it, it's really addictive. And when you open up the spots modes, it's basically the whole level can be chained all the way along. So you can jump on a pipe, grind along, do a massive kickflip into the air and a spin, land on like a pagoda type thing, grind across that, flip again, and you start to kind of get used to it. But you've got to time the type of tricks that you do, because some will slow you down. So if you kick flip in a certain direction, it'll slow you down, so you won't get the distance, so you won't be able to actually land onto the next thing. On the spots, if you land, that's the score you get, unless you go all the way through and grind and bounce and all the way and get to the very end. When you get to the very end, you've got a multiplier that's built up over all these things. It sounds so simple, and it is. It's so simple to play, but it's so addictive, because you can kind of, when you score for the spots modes especially, it'll give you who's got the highest rank, it'll give you the highest score, and it'll also tell you where you fall within it. It doesn't give you a list of people, it'll just say who's first and where you are. And when you've done it, you kind of go, well, I can do a bit better than that. I know I can get a couple more spins in there, I can time that better, and you'll have another crack, and then you'll bail, and you're like, reset, I can do it again. And you'll have another go, and you go, yeah, get a little bit further, oh, bailed. And you just keep going at it, and then you go, yes, I've got the top score. And then you check the next day and someone's beating you, and you're like, bugger, I've got to try and get better than that. And there's a lot of levels. I think there's 5 for each. There's 5 basic amateur ones, 5 like for each chapter, and there's 5 chapters, and then there's 5 pro ones. If you get everything, it opens up the rad mode, which is a load of extra levels. But there's also a daily grind on it, which is an interesting mode, because I wasn't expecting it. Basically, you've got a specific level set up, and you have to try and score the best score against everyone in the world within 24 hours. The rub is that you can practice it as many times as you like, but as soon as you decide to go for it, that's your score. That you can't go back and redo it. That's it. You go from beginning, and if you bail it, that's it. You're out. And I've done that so many times. Just gone, yeah, I can do this. Practice. Yeah, that's a brilliant score. And then you do it, and you clear the first 2 obstacles, and then smack straight on your face. Bollocks. That's me over and done with. It's out on the 21st in America and 22nd in Europe and UK. And
so by the time this epic podcast is going to be edited out, it'll have been out for a good couple of days.
And I heartily recommend it. Just be warned, you will play it until your hands are sore, and it will take over your life. Don't take it to the bathroom with you and go and sit and think you'll have a quick sit down and a couple of levels, because you will lose feeling in your legs and people will think you have fallen down the toilet. Don't do it. Don't do it when waiting for buses, because buses will go past you, because they won't stop because you're playing Ollie Ollie. Don't play it if you're getting really good at it. Don't play it when you know you've got to get off a bus, because otherwise you will end up somewhere else. And certainly don't play it on a train that is going from, say, London to Edinburgh, and you've got to get off in Leeds or somewhere, because you will end up in Edinburgh. So be warned, it's very, very addictive. But it takes that little bit of getting used to it. The tutorial's nice and simple, and once you start to click with it, you'll go back, because I've hit a point where I'm stuck and I can't actually get through the level. So I've been going back to other levels, and because I've played so much of it, I now can tick off some of the challenges that I was having real troubles with, because some of them require you not to actually land on the grinds, but actually land on the path underneath them, so that you can collect something and then leap off and land on another path a bit further on, rather than grinding it. Because grinding's quite easy when you've got your speed up and you can kind of bounce along and hop onto other things. Trying to do the flatland stuff and just do little kick flips over obstacles can be really, really hard. But it's...
As an ex-skater, grinding was never that easy.
But it to compare it to Tony Hawk's, I don't think it's fair. I loved SSX for PS2. I loved that ability to start a run, and especially playing with friends, going, I can get all the way down this, I can hit that pipe, I can flip off there onto that, I can grind that, I can then do that big jump over there, and I can get there, and then your mate will come along and go, I can better that, and they would. And then you'd have to be a bit better. And the online, my issue is the fact that you can't share like challenges with friends. That's not built in, that I can see. But we've got Twitter and Facebook. There's no reason you can't take a screen grab and go on then, who can beat it, and just see if people can beat it. I'm hoping we stick a scoreboards on the site, because I can see quite a few people picking this up and getting quite addicted, and seeing people's scores changing by like 10 points, and then someone will come along and put a couple of 100,000 on it, and you're like, whoa! So it's lovely. It is really, really good. I
really need another addictive
I have other games I should have been playing, and I should have been sitting and writing the review for this, and in the end I had to leave my Vita at home and write the review on the way to work, because I knew full well if I took it with me, I would just play it. I ended up late back from lunch because I thought, I'm going to do this level. It's so simple. It is very, very simple, but it's very, very playable. And I think there's a PlayStation Plus discount for it as well when it launches. I think it's $10 without the discount in America. Well, I think it's €10, and I think it's $7.99 here. I can check those prices, but I think it's around that. But it's well worth it. It looks very simple, but it is very, very playable.
Well, as I said, addictive games and me are not a mix. I'm stuck with one at the moment, and I can't decide if I want to stop playing it or can't help myself because I need to play it more.
Yeah, it's euros. It's $9.99. PS Plus discount is $7.99. $7.99 for pounds and $6.39 with a discount, and $12.99 in America or $10.39 with a discount. It's well worth it, but be warned, it is like crack. It's very, very Moorish.
No, we can't have more. That's I'm at the moment I'm addicted to Don't Starve on the PS4. It's taking up far too much of my game time. I've not done anything more with Mass Effect. I've done very, very little with Assassin's Creed because of this game. Yeah, it's wrecking my head. Seriously, I almost had an incident earlier yesterday. I was playing it during the middle, and a power cut decided to happen, and I lost maybe 14, 15 days worth of work.
Man.
I had a lovely little little camp set up, everything running. I had advanced farms all pumping out food. I was, felt really good about it, and it just disappeared.
You were making me think
No.
about it, because you said that if you die, you lose your save.
You die.
Can you not fling it up to PlayStation Plus Cloud and then grab it back down again?
No.
Because it pause it, send it up to the cloud, then carry on playing. If it balks, you kind of go pull it back down again, and then you carry on from where you were.
I haven't tried that.
So if you die, you just have to start from nothing all over again.
Yeah, you start from bugger all again.
It looks like it reminds me the way it plays, the way you move around the land. It really reminds me of Age of Empires.
Yeah, and the worst bit is I kind of play it with that same mentality as well. I play it. I set up a camp as where I can. So I set up a little area for farms. I put a brick wall around everything to defend myself. I play it very much like Assassin's Creed, like I said, like Age of Empires. The trouble is, I spend so much bloody time doing that just as I'm getting this nice and built up, something happens and I end up dying from some stupid mistake.
That's his life.
This is why I will never dare get into something like Minecraft, because, dear God, I would lose my job, I would lose my missus, I would lose every resemblance of life I have.
There we go, just come full circle, straight back to Minecraft again.
The only other game I have managed to pull myself away from Don't Starve to play is Zen Pinball on the PS4. And I've got a bit of an issue with it, although I can't decide if it's my issue or if it's the game's issue. Knowing, Stuart, you've developed quite a few pinball type games, maybe you've got a say in this. Have you played Zen Pinball at all?
I played the demo on PS4.
Have you played any on PS3 as well?
I played the demo on PS3.
Well, we still might have a say in it.
Only because I'm so sick and tired of fucking pinball after working for 5 years.
I could imagine. No, that's more than fair. My issue is I've played a lot on the PS3 and the Vita, and I've got a good feel for how the ball reacts and strength for the paddles and things like that. Yet, playing the exact same tables on the PS4, everything feels heavier and it doesn't move in the way I'm used to. Now, I can't tell if they've fixed the tables to feel more realistic and it's me that's off, or it's the tables that are off and it's me that's used to the control system. It's kind of breaking my love of the game. World War Hulk is one of my favourite tables, and I could average a good score on that on the PS3 each game. I could go 70 to 100 mil without killing myself. On the PS4 version, if I'm lucky, if I get 50 or 60, and that is lucky. The ball just doesn't travel the way I'm expecting it to. It's annoying me.
You were saying you thought the ball felt heavier or something?
That
for certain points where you would usually be able to launch it further and it's not going as far?
Yeah.
Or?
If anyone's played, if you pull back for full launch after start, the ball will usually go right round the top and then drop down. In the PS4, it doesn't even seem to get halfway. It's sort of, the ball's got like almost twice the weight to it.
Was it a frame rate issue?
No, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, it runs super smooth.
What's I mean is it run at 30 or 60 on the PS3?
Ooh, Connor, you're the one that usually knows that
I
stuff.
think it's probably 30. I'd be surprised if it's running at 60 on PS3.
So let's say it runs 60 on the PS4.
Yeah.
Maybe they've cocked up the math somewhere, because twice the frame rate, half the impact.
Possibly.
I've looked around a little bit and I haven't really heard many other people mentioning it, so it's leaning towards it's probably me. But as I say, I could average one score on the same table on one console, and on the Vita I was getting the same kind of scores, yet on the PS4 it feels near enough like half the score I used to get. And it's
twice the frame rate, half the score. That's an interesting idea.
It is feeling quite like that, and
I'll have to fire off an email to them and see if they've come across it themselves.
It's kind of putting me off buying any more tables for it. I mean, I know I can go back and play them on the PS3 and all that, but it's putting me off buying extra DLC for it. It feels a bit annoying, that. But I say it could be a number of things, but just as we all know, a lot of us have played the Zen Pinballs to death. I mean,
yeah.
We've usually got a running challenge with Moonshine and Titanic from Three Tall Nerds, and the amount of times they can kick my ass at scores is unbelievable. But I've got no hope of even getting anywhere near them at the moment because, say, the scores are just off. I have to go back to the PS3 just to even kind of challenge them. But the PS3 scores don't show up on the PS4 leaderboards.
Do they not?
No, not that I've noticed. It's almost like a separate set of tables. And I'm wondering that's because they've adjusted the physics.
Possibly. Because they did between the Vita and the PS3, didn't they? Your scores would appear between them. When you'd set a score, it was on their records and you could play different platforms and it'd still be there as your score.
Because we've done gamer nights on the PS3 and the Vita and score challenges, and it's worked really well. But I don't know. It's... Yeah, for a game that I was looking forward to on the 4, I've kind of lost my love for it at the moment. Which, I'll say, after a couple of goes of that, I hear this little voice in the back of my head saying, you could get further in Don't Starve, you really need to play more. One more go of 2 hours and then you die and you want to throw the controller across the room. I have literally... I thought I was doing really well, nice and strong, and this little freaking spider or some weird creature comes up I've never seen before and in one hit just knocks me out. It's like, I've just spent hours, like, not even... You haven't got a hope of saving or of... Oh, it just... You need to have the calmest temperament to play Don't Starve, because if you're in any way got anger issues, you need to take out insurance on your TV, your console, anything around you, and don't play it near your partner, because some of the words that might come out of your mouth she might take us towards her, and then you get a whole different argument. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not good.
Especially when you've got a rather hormonal 7-month pregnant one sitting next to you.
That's not good. Been there, done that.
As it is, I'm trying to think of games and learn games I can play while the baby's born. I'm still not going to say. Every time I go to say a certain phrase, these guys are sort of leaning forwards, meerkat style, waiting for me to say a certain term. I'm looking for a game I can play while the baby's resting on a shoulder. You know,
you're getting better at this phrase, aren't you? You've definitely evolved from one-handed. Definitely, you're getting better.
That's what I'm ducking.
Well, with one hand you got a move controller. Hey.
Oh God! Oh, this is wrong.
Why was there never a cow milking app for the Move controller? It's perfectly designed for it.
Why was there never a Star Wars game?
Men playing it.
Yeah.
I think that was because of Nintendo, wasn't it?
No, I think it's more because of some prat on the Xbox side to make a Kinect game.
Oh, yeah. Of course, it went that way as well.
The dancing.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to go quite that far, but okay.
I will.
Just watching Han Solo do gay disco dancing is wrong.
Very, very wrong. It's just no. I'm trying to blank as much of that out of my memory as I can. Being a Star Wars fan, I don't need to see that kind of thing.
These aren't.
Hey, the script's ready.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
I'm holding out so much hope for it. I really am.
A New Hope.
Nice line.
I've got connections with episode 7 as well.
You have connections with episode 7? That you must explain more now.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, we're fine. We'll go on for another 2 hours. It's okay.
That might be quite an easy one. The one of our lead environment artists at Revolution on Ink Cold Blood is now at ILM on the environments team for Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I've also had email from J.J. Abrams and Brian Burke as well.
If you were doing the name drop drinking game, now's an appropriate time to have a couple of drinks.
That was a pretty big one.
David Hayter.
Oh.
An email from him this morning, which was nice.
Oh, that reminds me. That reminds me of the whole Metal Gear Solid love letter to.
Don't please don't
open such a can of worms on the internet by even talking about Metal Gear Solid.
It wasn't even a can of worms, isn't it? It's a can of worms at Oddworld HQ.
Was it a throwaway comment that someone made and then it kind of spiraled out?
No, it was literally we'd created this homage love letter to the game. In fact, it was a big, great franchise. We all loved it, and it's one of those games you'd always think, what game would you like to work on? I'd love to work on Metal Gear. That was it. And then somehow the letter I approved managed to morph slightly into, yeah, we want to make it, please let us do it. And I didn't see, because I had a meeting with Amazon that day. And then about 10:30 that night, I had an email from the CEO of Oddworld saying, why don't you want to work with us anymore? I'm like, what?
No.
What are you on about?
Oh no!
I don't know what you're on about. And it came out the next day, I was like, oh my god. So it's a subject I don't want to talk about.
No, that's fine. We'll move on.
And swiftly on. Considering we've we did have an agenda written out, planned out to go as long like the usual JamCast we usually do. Unfortunately, we all got talking quite a lot there, and virtually everything in our agenda has been covered. And considering we're probably aiming close to the 3-hour mark by the time we're finished,
pretty much.
I think we're probably in a position to wrap up slightly here. Wouldn't you say, Lot?
Yes, I need to go to bed.
Beds for wimps.
So do I. I'm up at 7 o'clock. I'm up at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be far off.
Yeah, I'm up about the same.
Yes, so, has anyone got anything they'd like to mention?
No.
No. You've gone through virtually everything you can think of. Name dropping J.J. Abrams. That's a way to finish off. I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
So one of the things we want to mention is Connor. You mentioned him earlier was Retro Gem from Replay Events. Replay Events is hosting another one of their retro gaming conventions in Blackpool on the 3rd and 4th of May. So it's something, if you've got any interest in retro gaming at all, I mean from the old arcade games, the classics, through to old consoles, anything you can think of, they're going to have down there, and it's a whale of a time. Tickets will go quick, so if I were you, I'd go and check them out on Facebook or at the website. We'll have something on our website the next day or so, so if you want to go, 3rd and 4th of May in Blackpool, and I highly recommend it. I know a couple of us are going to at least try to get down there for it. We went to the one in Manchester in November last year, and it was.
And I went to the one at Platform, didn't I? Which was really good. Really, really good.
Great bunch of guys. They do this all for the love of gaming. I've played some arcade machines there that I've never even seen before. Some proper classics. And the best bit is they're all rigged up to play for free. So once you pay for your ticket and you got in, you can play anything for as long as you like. You can literally sit. I mean, we went with.
I can't go because if there's a Sega Rally machine there or a Daytona machine, you will not get me off it. I will literally sit and play Daytona or Sega Rally all day.
There was both. The last one I went to.
Oh.
And the Sega Rally is mine. I'll quite happily fight you on that one.
Mine's Power Drift.
Power Drift. Was that in the really weird cabinet?
Yeah. I put 20 quid in that one. Massive queue. People got really pissed off at me.
We could always ask if they've got that. If they've got that, I'm sure they'd be more than welcome for you to come down.
Well, I was at the one in November as well, but only to surprise my old boss, Andrew Houston. Because he did a little speech bit after the cosplay competition.
I must have missed that bit. Damn! No.
Legit, end of the day, he was there, so I turned up and surprised him. I hadn't seen him since 97, 98.
Oh, wow.
We were going around promoting our charity event, the Extra Life, really hard, so I must have missed. Next year. This year. 1 year.
Yeah.
So, I can't work out what year it is at the moment. My brain's gone to mush.
That's because 3 minutes to 2 in the morning.
That's yeah.
Let's just end this now, then, shall we?
Trouble is, when you've ended, you get to go to sleep or give up for the next rest of the week. I've got to edit. Anyway, has anyone else got anything they want to mention?
No, I just want to say thank you for Stewart for responding to my tweet on Twitter and coming on. It's been lovely. It's been really insightful as well.
Just thank you for indulging us. Like you've not only just not just indulging me, for example, as an Oddworld fan, but you've just pretty much pulled back the lid of the gaming industry, and you just really let us have a peek inside at that gaming development.
I'm probably going to get sued in the next week by Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft, but it's fine.
I don't think you've said anything out of turn. I think you've just really just let us know what goes on behind the scenes, and a lot of people don't appreciate your work in terms of they appreciate your work by playing it, but also a lot of people don't know of all the problems, financial problems, and
the legalities. The legalities are the big thing, especially in the Microsoft.
And we do really appreciate all the work that you put into your games and such, and just being one of the developers who are very active in the gaming community. You're not shut up at all. You come on our show.
Thanks.
I don't mean. I didn't mean.
You've not shut up at all. Oh, right.
Closed, a lot of studios don't talk. They're shut up. You know. Mm. Yeah, really appreciate it.
It's nice to listen to, and you hear a lot of gamers. All you hear from is, "When's this game coming up? When's this going up?" They don't understand just how much work goes on behind the scenes to even get a name out, let alone the coding and the Q&A sessions and the financial side of it, and the pulling your hair out, stress, awake all nights about different things. It's an eye-opening experience.
That they just magically appear on shelves,
Yes.
That's it. Oh, latest games on PSN, brilliant. I'll have that.
No problem.
It's there's obviously a lot. It is really good to actually be able to listen to a developer who is a gamer's view on the gaming world at the moment. It's really, really good. It's good for us as gamers and writers and reviewers. It gives us a different insight that we don't have.
So thank you very, very much for joining us on this podcast.
No, thank you for asking me. Well, thank you for tweeting out. I mean, hopefully you'll get Shahid next.
Oh, that would be lovely. That would be absolutely lovely. If you want to put in a good word for us, that would be. I
shall do. I mean, Shahid's going on to PS Nation, I think, next month. So, I think we both are on it. We've both been told that if we're on it, we're both on it together. So, okay. So that'll be hysterical.
We're not stealing your guests, sorry.
No, we'll have them next, though. If you want to cycle them round, that's fine.
And hopefully, close to the time when New N Tasty's on its way out, we could perhaps, tempt you on again, talk about your a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I think in terms of when New N Tasty's releasing it, it's spring this year. The PlayStation versions are going to release first, just. I can't give you a date yet. But it's
whenever
it's close. We're and in terms of finishing it, we're getting close.
Wow.
I think we've probably got about 60 days left until we're getting near that submission kind of window and final QA testing and what have you. So it's definitely getting closer. It's come together so much this side of Christmas. It's amazing. Before Christmas we had bits of the game everywhere, just bits, and now it's starting to flow together and stuff. The UI and all menus are all working and stuff. We're getting feedback now from user testing and things. And it's beginning to have a really positive effect on it. And again on the team as well, because the team, especially the art guys and the programming guys, they've worked like dogs for the past 15 to 18 months. And that's been amazing to watch, including an engine switch, in the middle of development. That was like, oh, okay.
I think we can definitely give them a massive thanks from our team, because you can see from Daz's minuscule knowledge of the tiniest things on the back of Abe's back and all this. He takes note of every single thing.
Yeah,
so
I will never forget the day. It was that. It was Eurogamer, wasn't it, when you first showed the footage? And I just lost it. I just think this game is.
Well, you ain't seen.
Oh, of course, of course not. I'm just saying that is.
Well, that was pre-engine change as well. So we changed engine after that footage.
Wow,
so you're gonna blow your mind, mate.
We changed engine December last year, or December 2012.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah.
So we've literally rebuilt the entire game in a year.
Cannot wait, and I'm looking forward to it.
So
I can imagine.
Only because I want to play it myself, because I'm obviously the head of the company now, I don't do much in terms of daily development, so
Right.
I do nothing for daily development. I do a lot of managing and moving things around and stuff.
Appearing on podcasts.
But
Yes.
yeah, there you go. But I've not had a chance to actually play the game properly, and I won't do until it's out. But that's my own decision, though. So with Stranger, I played the crap out of it for a while before it released on PS3. But when it released on PS3, I actually took pleasure in playing it from start to end.
That's good.
Platinum it.
That's really
I'm
good.
looking forward to some good trophies, some good trophy names from New and Tasty. I love a good trophy name.
If it,
I think we some
Stick
surprises.
one in called Dad's Wet Dream or something,
I didn't want to mention that one yet, but yeah, okay.
Have me popping up in the corner like the toasty guy from Mortal Kombat.
I think you've
Tasty!
popped up enough in this episode.
Okay, we're done now. We're done.
You need to go home and have a cold shower now.
Daz is spent.
Oh, no need. At 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no need for that kind of discussion.
Okay.
That's generally how the episodes end anyway. So, right. I think as we've already said, a big thanks to Stewart Gilray for coming on and putting up with our insanity. I hope we're going to get some great feedback from this. And you're always welcome on anytime you want to talk about anything or just shoot the shit on a game that you've loved, raged, annoyed, or anything. Just come on by any means.
Well, many thanks for asking me. It's been a privilege and an honour. And thank you much for the entertainment for 3 hours.
Anyone want to edit this one?
No thanks.
Nope.
Right then, guys. Let's sign off, shall we? So that's it'll be a goodbye from me, Graham, aka Jedi Junkie.
And it's a goodbye from me, Connor at VDJ1B.
It's goodbye from me, Dazil at the Dazil.
And I just wanted to jump in and say thanks to Stewart. I didn't get in edgewise, but I definitely appreciate having him on, seeing everything. And from me, Troy at NM Rain. That's toodaloo.
Bye.